that make it?
Sorry,
Why did that say recording in progress?
No,
Why
I
does
did.
it-
I started recording just in case the
Oh.
Facebook feed dropped out. Whatever.
Is me not being
On camera, does that lend a air of credibility to you?
No, it doesn't. My wife doesn't want me to be on camera because, you know, we're getting weird mail and, you know, there's a lot of wackos and she's
Done.
freaked out. And that's it.
Done. Understood. Understood.
And also,
understood.
I'm quite ugly. And
Also, he has a giant. He thinks he has a big nose.
I think that would be the main hit to the credibility, just the way that I look. You know what I
Like
mean?
as soon as they see you, they're like, nah, this guy
Yeah, I
can
don't know
never.
about that.
Nah.
Yeah. I know I got to stay behind the camera. I'm not going in front of the camera, you know?
You're a funny
I
guy.
don't like
I like you. I like you, Sid. I like you. Sid.
All right,
Well,
gentlemen.
I am.
Yeah.
So do we want to load? Are we on Facebook?
I'm gonna
right
start.
now?
I'm gonna do. Yeah, just give me a second.
So yeah, you should do the intro and the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm doing it. Hold on. Okay.
Tag me in the video.
Yeah. We call this a frank discussion part,
And also,
episode 3.
yeah, and also tag my Facebook page.
Yeah. I'll send you just the link, and then you can just here.
Oh, fine, be that way about it. Fine.
It's just easier that way. Share the page.
So Frank has not seen my new video, right? He did not see the video or the one that I posted to you. And
He didn't.
okay.
I've seen one of your videos so far.
But that was like a video of me doing magic, right?
Yeah, a video.
Yeah,
you
that doesn't
freaked out-
count. Yeah,
you
this
freaked
is
out a
much
couple of
more.
black dudes, which is the best thing ever.
This is more subversive and very, I would say,
All right,
against the system, angry, rah, rah, rah. I'm a
gentlemen,
revolutionary.
we are on live,
Yep. See
and
it.
I'm gonna.
I would say, against the system.
And just turn off your volume so it doesn't reverberate.
Already did. Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 3 of what we call, what I like to call a frank discussion, or let's be frank. Given that we originally had this podcast,
I'll be frank.
I'll be frank. Frank will be frank. Frank squared. Originally had this discussion with myself and Ephraim, Frank Zelenko, the brother of Dr. Zelenko, and de facto Forrest Gump, as you like to say, Forrest Gump, glorified assistant of his brother, treating patients from Schmovid.
By Forrest Gump, what I mean to say is I've been Forrest Gumped into the situation in the sense that, you know, kind of like just a simple nobody who got into a weird, you know, to speak to people that I wouldn't normally even want to speak to, you know, like ministers of countries and stuff like that. It's an odd thing. You know, you have like the prime minister of Honduras on line 1. I'm like, do I have to really talk to this guy? I didn't want to.
Interesting.
Am I really qualified to do this? Of course not.
Bolsonaro also, I think, right? Or
I didn't get a chance to speak to him, but
okay, fine. And joining us today, finally, I was just telling him that I think this is a sign that the Satan is dying, because we have our friend Paul Carpenter. I don't know how to even introduce you. I mean, you are a magician. You were a magician. Once a magician, always a magician, but also a very, very interesting content producer. And in my opinion, out of the box thinker. And we
I know. I mean, I don't know what you call. I like to say, when people ask me like, what is it that you are? I just like to say I'm an artist of life. Like I art everything. You know, and I just anything that I do, it's almost as an excuse. Svi, I want to put it out there, like the comedian does, where he's like, well, I'm just telling a joke. So it's a joke. And so my life is, all of it is a piece of art. 1000% of it. From the moment that I wake up to the moment that I sleep, everything's art. So you can say whatever you want. And I really don't care either way. Because at the end of it, I want it to be a breathing piece of art.
Well, here we have Paul Carpenter, a big piece of SHIT. No, I'm just kidding. You said I said whatever I want.
Yeah, but look, I'm all about art as long as it's not a tampon in a teacup, you know, or
I couldn't disagree more. You know, the whole Dadaism from the 1950s and how it evolved into what, in the 1980s or so, there was a guy who was molding his feces into the different faces of famous people.
Lovely.
So
There was
when it
that,
gets,
there was the piece of art that they had in New York, the one that Giuliani didn't like, where they put feces on what's it, the Yoshka's mom, Maria Madonna.
Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
the Virgin Mary. Yeah.
Anyway.
No, and so when it gets to that level, it's a little too much for me. I like subversive, crazy art that is, for instance, one of the things I've done is on the fourth day that Trump was inaugurated, I went to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and I bought a toilet. Actually, it was given to me by a plumber. And I went to the Hollywood Walk of Fame and sat down with my pants at my ankles and a towel over my crotch, saying dump on Trump with a big, poster sign saying dump on Trump. So I'm about being a Discordian. I enjoy the idea of being the outside of it and not part of the whole. As soon as everything becomes the whole, I start to question the reasoning behind it. And so I start to kind of back off of it. So as soon as we get over 50%, that's when I'm going to start asking questions like, okay, wait, like, should we be here? Are we sure we're in the right team anymore, guys?
It's kind of like when the people have been coming and saying, it's all doctors who agree on this. It's all rabbis who agree on this. When somebody starts saying that to me, and I know actually that it's not all doctors, and I know not only the doctors who don't agree are being censored and blacklisted and picked off one by one, that's already
so Paul, you're
more
like
red flags in a Chinese parade.
you're basically a contrarian in a lot of ways, and if anybody starts to agree with too many people start to agree with you, you start to doubt the premise, right? You're like you don't want to be a member of any club that would have you as a member, right?
Right, but you know what's really sad about that statement is the man was a 33rd degree Freemason.
Yeah, but okay, let's talk about Freemasonry. I want to get into this because
no problem. Let's go. I've got history for you, Frank Zelenko, and stuff like I even went to the first Masonry temple, which is in England. Yeah, so crazy stuff. I actually got to go to the 33rd degree temple in New York and walked into their hall of 33rd degrees. And when you walk in, it's like the faces of everybody you've ever seen. Like, what's this guy that got in trouble when he was comedian? He was on the show with Seinfeld, and he ended up going really crazy and saying,
Richards, Michael Richards.
This kid. Okay, so he's a 33rd degree Freemason.
No, Richards.
Richards is 33. No.
Yeah.
No, so,
yeah.
So, look.
Yeah, I do. Oh, there goes the screen. Yeah, no, I'm telling you. Yeah.
Can I give you basically? I've studied kind of the Masons for probably like, I guess when everybody else kind of got into it when the Da Vinci Code came out.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So, and then when the Lost Symbol came out, that was a fun book to read. And so the basic premises, I shouldn't say premises, the basic premise of Freemasonry is interesting to me. It's not bad in and of itself. The question is, was it kiboshed by some other fraternal order, the Illuminati or something like that, right? Like Adam Weishaupt in the late 1700s in Bavaria, right? So the question is, were they stopped back then at that point in the late 1700s, or did they secretly continue to infiltrate everything and then take over the world? Maybe.
Okay, so is that your question? That's your question for the panel?
I don't know how easy it is to answer that question, but I'm saying that it's probably not even that straightforward. It's probably even weirder than that.
Yeah, I'm going along with this idea that, and I'm going to push into the more closer to where we are, 1776, 1706, 1736, around these times. So the first document that we have that we can actually put down a stamp of time, I think it's 1706 or 1736. It's in England, and it's the actual first document that's ever been proven to be of the Freemasonry. And it's in this museum that's in London. So that's the first document. Now, what I believe personally is this conceptual idea of the Illuminati, the conceptual idea of the Rothschilds, and this whole conglomerate of men who have money call them the oligarchy at this point, which is what they are, hands down, right? So I think what actually happened was that when we supposedly America fought against England, it was all a white flag event on the British side. And so the whole taxation without representation, the whole idea of 1776, the idea of the Declaration of Independence, all of it is just the English controlling the entire time. And then we get into the 1890s and we get into the eugenics in America, and when the eugenics American society started, and how that then transfers from the United States over America. And when because at one point in the 1920s is when the Freemasonry started to get a bad rap, and then they created the Shriners to get a better rap.
So Freemasonry started to get a bad rap around the time of the Civil War, where there was this, I forgot, there was a famous incident, because before this incident, 65% of men in the United States were Freemasons, because America was a Freemason country, started by Freemasons. It was really, really big in the culture. It was really, it was not some kind of like secretive thing. Most people were into it. And
Right.
And then there was some kind of internal politics where some guy was going to rat somebody else out, and they're very, they're kind of like a secretive brotherhood. It was almost kind of mafia like. They're going, you're going to rat on the family, and then the guy disappeared, and then they're like, and then a lot of people are like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. Freemasonry is about being honest. So look, there's a lot of creepy shit that always goes on in every organization, but the basic premise that, I'll just tell you what I like about it. I like the fact that to be a Mason, you have to be kind of a rational person. You can be of any religion, but you have to believe in God. And basically anybody, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. And
I believe the actual technical thing is that you have to believe in a God of what is it? A God of one God. So
right.
that's where it stands. So that, but then that leans towards, it can be, let's say Satanism, and then you could go towards that direction. And
well, that's where people take it. That's where Catholics like to take it. I noticed that.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Look, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I kind of have an intuition. So I see who hates the Freemasons seem to be the same people who have been trying to kill Jews for thousands of years. The Nazis hated Freemasons. The Arabs hate Freemasons with a passion. The Catholic Church hates Freemasons. So that doesn't automatically make them my allies, but some of the other, like George Washington was a big time Freemason. The founding fathers of the United States, to me, are nearly sacred to me. I'm not saying,
No, I agree. I agree.
I just wanted to say, as you were talking, Paul, as you were talking about, that these people were kind of on, I guess, from what I understand, on the same side, or the British and, people they were fighting. The people who founded this country actually, they wanted to make, I feel like, and Frank, I'm sure you would agree, they were, inspired by, this was like a nevuah for non-Jews. They were inspired by Hashem. And they wanted to make the official language of this country Hebrew. They even put
I know that.
Moshe Rabbeinu, a depiction of Moshe Rabbeinu in Congress.
Okay, I'm going to make it crazy now.
But wait, hold on. Okay, but before you do that, let's kind of let me at least talk about the points where why I still believe what I still believe. Now, the language never became Hebrew.
Yeah,
it was pushed back, and there's how many times did Benjamin Franklin go to Europe over the course of the 7 years of going back and forth? There's a lot of things that I believe came to play that were based on the control of the people of the United States. And I still feel as though, look, here's one of my things. Why do we care in the mass media when anyone of royalty in the UK gets married? Why do we care when they have an issue? Why do it's always been a thing, right? So it's like, why? Because they own us. It's that simple.
They own our mind. They own our minds, kind of.
Can I share?
Fine. If they own your mind, they own pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to comment on that when
Go
you're
ahead.
done. When you're
Yeah,
done.
sure. Go ahead. I'm done.
So I fully agree with that, and I've noticed that too. And it's been going on. So what I think happened was that when the founding fathers started this experiment, right? It was like like a nuclear bomb of enlightenment on the world, where they're literally, they're constantly like, Dave Chappelle and all these schmucks. They're constantly shitting on the founding fathers. Founding fathers, they didn't start slavery. They fucking ended it. Okay, they didn't end it in their lifetime. Okay, but they sowed the seed. They planted the seeds for that. It was absolutely unthinkable in the entire world to have any type of economy that didn't rely on slavery.
Slavery. Oh,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Okay?
100%.
They're the ones who they brought that to the world. Okay, and then some wise guy is always going to tell, oh well, England and France, they outlawed slavery way before the Americans. No, they didn't. They didn't outlaw it in the colonies. They just
But wait a
didn't
second. But
slaves
Frank,
around in their countries.
so let's get to the 13th Amendment, since we want to talk about the abolition of slavery. It's in the 13th Amendment that if you do something wrong within this country and you get convicted of that crime, you are considered a slave. And so there is still slavery within this country.
Look, it wasn't fixed overnight. It wasn't
Overnight. We're in the year 2021.
Oh, you're saying that's still the case
It's
right
still
now?
the case today, to this day. I mean, it's in the 13th Amendment. Go read it. It's absolutely asinine to me. But this allows the system, which is the jailing system, and the reason that the laws were placed in the first place were so that they could still have slaves, but under the new laws. And there's a really good documentary out there called The Corporation, which if you've never read or seen is really beautiful. And there's one portion in that where they talk about when corporations went to the Supreme Court to gain entities. They wanted to take the idea that their product was an entity. And so, because this is slaves were products who had the ability to become their own entities, they became sovereign in themselves. And so when that happened, many corporate lawyers went to the Supreme Court, and I believe the number might be wrong here, but out of somewhere like in 300 cases, 280 of them were corporations seeking for their entity to become, i.e. an entity. And of that, maybe 13 or 14 were African Americans who actually wanted to have stamp of approval from the so I mean, it's just like that kind of thing plays into this as well.
So basically, what I'm saying is from the time that they founded this country based on the Federalist Papers, and the principles that you read therein, right? It immediately went under attack from every other world power, like right away, as hard as possible, because they didn't want to see an American success, because that would set a model, a precedent for them,
for everything else, for sure.
Everything else.
So here's the
wait,
I'll stop.
Since that time, America has been under attack, in unrelenting attack from without, and from within, in every possible way. And it's been dying a very, very slow death. Okay, it hasn't. It's been a war. The Revolutionary War never actually ended.
Right.
That's really all I'm just trying to say. It was a lot of back and forth. It hasn't been just one way, down the slope to to pure evil. There's been a lot of pushback. There's the majority of the people in the United States are good people, and there is a divine reason why this collection of people ended up here and under this type of government, or what they attempted to do. So we can get to that at a later point, but please continue. What did you want to say?
No, I'm with you. I'm when you made the point, so I wanted to keep going with it. But I think that yes, you're right. We've been attacked at all times. Look at what's going on with the idea of communism being kind of fed through the democratic agenda, and what they've done with schools, and what they've done within the education system in and of itself.
Any type of statism is like communism is a form of statism. Any type of statism is what they want to establish here, because that's really, look, you have in England, you have the quote unquote the royalty, the aristocracy. In a communist country, you have a different type of of higher class. Every system has its own upper class. Whoever, the people in charge, it doesn't matter what the name of it is. It's just a different form of the same exact shit.
Yeah.
And that's what they've been trying to establish. It's
It's
either a
different
monarchy or communism.
It's a different form of plebeians versus patricians.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yep, exactly.
Gentlemen.
I mean,
go on.
in the end, don't we, if we want to make an analogy of this, are we not looking at, on some level, a vampiric style of life? Right? If you're born into this system, it's a vampiric style of life. There's only one or two people who jump out of that life. I mean, there was even a kid, I think about 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, who made a documentary about all of his best friends who were the richest kids in the world. And it became, his demise. And I think he was a Johnson & Johnson kid or a Procter & Gamble kid. He made the documentary. And it was literally his demise. Granted, he has enough money to go do and live wherever he wants, so he doesn't really care. But at the same time, within his social circles, he's been pushed away and he can no longer obtain the trillions that maybe he could have if he would have pushed his billions into some business or pushed his money into whatever.
Yeah, I think that I don't really understand the pattern, but they operate under a certain cosmic pattern where they understand how, and I suppose the catch-all phrase for the people that we're describing, I refer to it as the Sitra Achra.
Mm-hmm.
And
could you explain that for me and everyone else?
Frank, by the way, it's good that I just wanted to get into that and you read my mind. So it's good you're getting into that. And I also want you to, since we're on the topic of these, patricians, plebeians, I want you to get into your, when in doubt, blame them. You know who I'm talking about. So get into that and get into this.
So there's a hierarchy to the Sitra Achra. Okay, Sitra Achra is an Aramaic term which is used in Kabbalistic parlance. Not real Torah Kabbalist. I'm not talking about Madonna. You probably know what I'm talking about. Okay, so basically, it means the other side. It's just a very simple side. So what is that? It describes, if you know the Matrix movie, it's a great metaphor. The rabbis use it all the time. That you have this parasitic type of entity, energy, creatures that they feed, like you said, in a vampiric way, off of people. How do they do that? What do they do? So this all goes back to the beginning with the Garden of Eden, which is a metaphor for something cosmic and profound, okay? Where God said like this, he said, before that event, Adam and Eve, which is really the same entity, they were receiving their life force straight from God. Picture, like metaphorically speaking, picture like, like an umbilical cord going straight from God to, okay. So after the incident, when Adam and Eve allowed the quote unquote snake to influence them, right? So the setup was like this. He said, okay, so from now on, he was telling to the snake, he said, I fed you directly. Okay, but for what happened in this particular situation, now you're going to have to fend for your sustenance. So what you're going to do is like this, and this is the establishment of free will in creation. You're going to try and make Adam and Eve go contrary to my will. Okay, every time you succeed, that direct channel of life force that I channel to them automatically gets directed to you. Okay, this is what the Kabbalists were describing as a situation. So now you have the snake, the quote unquote snake, otherwise known as Satan, otherwise known as the Sitra Achra, otherwise known as the Klippa, and so on and so forth. Okay, in order for him to exist, period, he has to siphon life force energy off of us by convincing us to go contrary to God's will. That's the basic concept. That's how this system works according to the Kabbalah, and that's what I subscribe to personally. So I feel that when I see all these type of, entities, when you look at the media, when you look at academia, when you look at the government as it is now, right, completely taken over by the Sitra Achra, because there's one way, according to the Kabbalists, that you can recognize the Sitra Achra. There's a lot of ways, but there's a very, very strong way. And this is Kessin, by the way. Rabbi Kessin.
Mendel Kessin, yeah.
This is he didn't say this exactly, but I think there's a good chance he would agree with this. So he talks about the Sitra Achra. It provides an alternative reality to the actual reality. Understand? Like whatever is the underlying reality of existence, right? They put something on top of it. They coat it, they mask it with what they want it to be. Understand? And so they have massively succeeded, because if we look at what happened, probably, you could argue last 70 years, but at least what happened in the Trump presidency, okay? Regardless of how you feel about him, non-stop lying about him, non-stop lying. And not just about him, just about almost everything. Every time it's exposed, let's say by Project Veritas or something like that, and just kind of like, the point is, it's so clear how we have not been getting the clear picture of what's been going on. Yeah. And I don't want to, argue that it goes back too far. I mean, it probably at least to Eisenhower, right? That's when it really started getting like really very successful, but they really took over in the past 5 years, I would say, like completely. They've lost any accountability whatsoever. They're fully confident in their in lying and presenting their alternative reality. That's the definition of the Sitra Achra.
I think it started actually when Obama.
I mean,
when Obama was running for president. I think it started. Maybe
I think it's farther back than that.
Farther back, but I mean, really,
farther back.
It became visible, at least to me.
Right.
Okay. Well, how about I'll agree with it's been visible or recognizable, or
for a long time.
You can actually point a finger and have some kind of scale study to say, okay, look, I can prove it by saying this, and these conspiracy theories that used to be, but are now no longer conspiracy theories. They're now open to the public, or, they've been redacted, yet, now can be seen for what they really were.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. But I think that this is all the way back to Hollywood.
I was literally going to say that. Think about this. Remember, I'm sure you've seen the movie Mississippi Burning, right? Yeah. What's the first scene? A couple of black guys and a Jewish guy driving through some flyover state, right? Alabama or something like that. And then the cop, the racist, evil white man, right? He comes and just blows the Jewish guy's brains out and stuff. This is what they've been feeding. Look, I'm not saying that has never happened. And I'm not saying it's impossible to happen, but what they've been feeding people is that is the overlying reality.
That's the only as we say in Russian, variant. That's the only option. Right.
Whereas, and in reality, the South is the most wonderful place on earth. It is. I've lived in the South. I've personally experienced it as a religious Jew, with everybody knowing it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with a big nose, okay? Can't hide it. Not even handsome, okay? Just a big, stereotypical looking Jew, okay? Loveliest people ever. On construction sites, I was working on construction sites with the kind of guys that we're instructed to be scared of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sure, of course.
But I think at this point, these people are all like evangelical and they love Israel. These are like my customers.
It's really weird. It's really weird. You get a different. Man, it comes down to, I believe, racism here now is what we're getting into on some level, on whether somebody has been taught or not been taught a certain way or a certain demeanor in life to have with people that you may not know. And so in turn, you get a different type of what I'm going to call the Protestant Christian of America, where you have the one who is a real one, like the actual real deal, Holyfield. I'm here to be a good Christian, be a good person to my neighbor, feed you, take care of you, have my 4 doors open, you know, kind of idea. And there's definitely that within the South, and screw it, across the world, across the planet. Doesn't matter where you go. There's some cultures that are just, that's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
But yet there's also, and I don't want to say it's a lot, it is small, but it nevertheless is something that shows, please forgive me, it shows, you know, what do I want to call it? A non-knowledge, I don't want to call it non-intelligent, because it's not that these people aren't smart.
It's an ignorance, or
It's an ignorance. Ignorance is the word. Ignorance. It's ignorance to something else, and how you react to something that you are ignorant to. And that approach has been very much not taught very well in the United States. It's very much the, you know, America, you know, kind of, you know, that mentality has
I love that. I mean, personally, I love that mentality. I mean, look, I'm not here. We're 3 people here, and we're all gonna disagree on some level. I'm definitely
sure, of course, I would hope we did.
I'm definitely America. Fuck yeah, that's who I am. And I'm not, and it's totally okay not to be, you know.
Sure.
And I'm not gonna try to proselytize to you.
So are you gonna go to Egypt?
I think there's a difference between the idea of patriotism and fanaticism.
Yeah.
So fanaticism is the 6th, with people breaking windows and shattering, thinking that they're going to take over the government, and that you know, this idea, or the same thing as CHOP, and how CHOP ended up with this idea that's this great, you know, bastion of, oh, we're going to change the world, or we're going to do this and make it better. But then when you get placed into that same position, you become the authoritative, angry person that's beating up people who are filming you. So it's like, what just happened?
I agree with a lot of what you said. The concept, the principle behind it. You know, I'm also not, I don't think fanaticism is ever positive or ever useful to anybody. And I think that, for the most part, it's an excuse for people who want to do bad things. They see their opportunity to seize it, and they, like the ISIS terrorists, right? They went from all over the world, because these are the dirtiest people on earth, and they saw the potential for a wild orgy of rape and murder, and they just left on that opportunity. Okay, so I understand what you're saying. I do not think that the January 6th is a good example of that, even though I could understand how somebody would see that if they bought the narrative of what was being said about them.
No, I just think that, listen, for the people who actually went to the Capitol, for the people who actually broke down doors and windows, for the people who physically attacked other human beings.
The cops, they didn't attack anybody. The cops let them in. I mean, when you look at
I know that. I know that there's some cops that let them in. I know that there's some cops that opened up the gates. I know the whole entire narrative. I watch it. I'm not just on one side over here. I had friends of mine that were standing there, you know, at the moment.
Right, and the only people that actually got hurt were those, you know, the guys who went into the building. There's a lady who got shot in the throat by a piece of shit. And there was another lady who got trampled. And there's a video of one of the January 6th apparent insurrectionists trying to save her while the cops are stomping on them. Okay, so that is just, I agree with you. It's just not a good example.
I mean, I'll agree as well that the cops shouldn't be beating up a woman, but I would also have to say that I agree that the woman shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Why did they let them in? I don't understand. They were shepherded into the building. I don't understand.
What's that?
That group was shepherded in the building. There's videos.
No, I know they were. I've seen the videos where they literally opened up the doors, opened up the gates, allowed them to come through. Listen, there's a lot that went on that day that was a little wackety boobity woo and a little weird and a little this and a little that. But I believe, once again, we're going back to this concept of, do they have things planned prior to them doing them? Are we on a 20-year, 30-year agenda prior to where we're at? Obviously. They already know their steps and their moves and on some level, If we start in the 1950s with Father Knows Best to the 1960s, we have, TV shows that are now more open, call it, you will, with The Love Boat. Then you get into having a family that's a mixed family, which is with the Brady Bunch. The idea of allowing gay mentality and the concept of it being okay starts coming in the 80s and 90s through different television shows. And then that moves into the transgendered. So it's a step-by-step process where they take 3 steps ahead, and when the social consciousness freaks out, they just take 1 step back and wait a couple seconds and then throw the rock farther than they did a second ago.
But what is the motivation? What is the energy pushing this agenda forward? What is it?
So I believe that the transhumanistic or the transhumanism idea is the push. And so this is where gender fluid comes into play.
Correct.
So if we have the futurism being genetically modified nano babies, which is a term I like to say I coined, if you have that, then you have eunuchs. You have people who are no longer male or female. And so the future is no longer to have gender. It's just to be a being that is existing.
Right. So what is the underlying, why are they trying to do this? What makes that?
Okay. I'll reel it back for you. So here's my guess, right? This is just guess, Frank. So I don't know what I'm talking about in the end, but my analogy here is I believe that human beings 40, 50,000 years ago started to understand the idea of fire, wielding fire, cooking around fire, telling stories around fire. Fire became our first television. And in turn, we started to create many different technologies with the use of fire. And somewhere along the way, I believe something inside of us made us believe that we need to become conscious light so that we can actually become quote unquote gods in our own way.
Exactly.
Where we are creating. So if that's the case, then Frank, if you kind of agree with this transhumanistic movement.
I didn't say kind of exactly. I said exactly. Right. I agree.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just saying the evolution of man. Yeah. And this comes from, once again, going into the Matrix, going into the side stories of the Matrix called the Animatrix, which is a great series made by 6 different directors.
Like
I believe, and they all tell different stories from the Zohar, and all leading to what's called the 5 war theory, which I have kind of come up with. So the first of the 5 wars is based on religious ideological war. The second is this next ideological war based on gender, and whether we're accepting technology into our body. So the first is religion. The second is like a technology, sexual. What is sex? What is person? What is human? How much of me makes me? All of that. Then the third one is when humans finally grow scared of robots, fighting the robots. And then the robots then fight back against the humans. And then the last war is a transhuman fighting against a robot transhuman. And then the symbiosis of what happens between the two of them and the futurism from that point is the evolution of man in some weird way.
Okay. So basically there's some kind of underlying subconscious drive to self-actualize.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But I think that going with this technological route may not be the actual way of doing it. For instance, maybe we already have all of the technical wiring that we need to connect to this thing.
That's exactly
and become
right.
The gods that we want on Earth. But since we're so caught up in this idea of technology and this outside source thing that needs to take us to that place, we forego the actual work that is entailed in becoming enlightened.
So, okay. All right. So can I, there's a lot of overlap with what you're saying. Not so much the driving force behind it, but a lot of the same pathways. Basically, the idea is that again, going back to the Sitra Achra. So the Sitra Achra, what it does, it was.
Gentlemen, Frank, can I pause you for 1 second? As you guys have been talking, I just want to let you know, speaking of Sitra Achra, I've been just messaging back and forth with a friend of mine in Israel who is, I would say, he's in his own kind of realm, meaning like I'm trying to show him that there's issues, with what. We're going to use the code word, what. And he keeps, I mentioned to him an instance of my friend taking his girlfriend to the hospital in Israel.
Number 3.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
She had her period for 6 weeks straight, and my friend responded, that's nothing, this has been well documented as one of the issues, and there's nothing to worry about. I'm like, nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about.
And I'm like,
how could you not worry about
what cognitive dissonance realm do you reside in? I asked him.
How could you not worry?
Not only that,
slap in the face.
not only that, but like all the people that are going against, all the doctors that are on the other side of this issue are being blacklisted. So now you're in the realm of, it's not science anymore, it's scientism. It's a religion, and maybe even be a cult.
It's a priesthood like any other.
Yeah, and now the priest has been exposed. The guy, Mr. Mousy, because we found out that he funded what he funded, and now we'll see what happens after that. But anyway, go on, guys. I apologize. Speaking of Sitra Achra, I just want to.
Okay, no, thank you for yeah. But Frank, let's listen to what Frank has to say on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so God created the Sitra Achra for a reason, to provide the choice. There wouldn't be any free will if it wasn't for the ability to do the wrong thing. So God had to implant that into reality, okay? But it's not something that is meant to go on forever. It's basically a 6,000-year project, a little less than 6,000 years minus 200, basically, okay? Where that state of being is there in order to allow free will beings with free will to make the right choice or not. So what for? What's the point of that choice? So the idea is God wants to have a relationship. He has created a being that he wants to have a relationship with. The why and all that kind of stuff, first of all, I don't know. Second of all, that's a whole separate topic, but nevertheless, there it is. Wants to have a relationship, but he wants to have a willing relationship. Okay, so he didn't want to create a robot. He wasn't interested in a sex doll, in an AI that is responsive to his every whim. He wanted a true other. Okay, and the only way, according to what God decided, apparently, he didn't see another way, is to provide the opportunity to do evil. Okay. So basically, if you notice, it's very straightforward. The MO of the Sitra Achra, let's take transgenderism for a second. Okay, clearly, if you look at the Torah, what it says about the feminine relating to the masculine, right? And you look at biology itself, you see that things come in a male and a female with a few very, very kind of there's some frogs out there, a couple of crickets that maybe don't fall into that category, or veer from that, or whatever. Okay, so
sure.
But it would seem, for the most part, the visible animals that we interact with, the big mammals, are male and female. Okay? And so there is a certain underlying reality. Okay, and they are always fighting specifically those things. It's whatever God likes, whatever system that he wants people to follow, right? They are specifically fighting, they're going the exact opposite way. Okay, so it's kind of a calling card of who they are. It's whatever, we're all about doing the opposite of whatever God likes. I'm not criticizing, I'm not like a street preacher.
It's a statement of fact. You're just stating
it's a statement of fact. They don't like God. They don't like God. They don't like what God likes. And for a lot of reasons, some of them are understandable. Like, God doesn't let me have sex the way I want to have sex. Right? He doesn't like it.
Free for all.
You know, whatever. No. Even if it's like, even if it doesn't make sense to a person, just like why, like, you know what I mean? So, but the reasons, the whys, and all that kind of stuff, that's just a separate discussion. But the bottom line is, whatever God likes, they don't like. That's the Sitra Achra. I mean, it's not that hard. It's not that difficult to see what's going on and why it's going on. And they're gonna keep, and they have other MO. Like, for instance, this idea, there's a good metaphor of them, the Sith, you know, from Star Wars, dark side, right? The dark side. So the Sith always eats itself, right? If you notice that you want to call them the left or whatever, they are insatiable. Understand? They have an enemy, and they target the enemy, and then they eat that enemy, and then they need to find another enemy because they're all about eating. Okay, they just endless eaters. They need somebody to attack. They need somebody to kill. They need somebody to blame somebody. And then when there's nobody left, they start eating each other. That's the MO of the Sitra Achra as well, because it has nowhere to go. It just needs to continue eating, okay? Because that's programmed into it, in a sense, okay? As however subconscious it is, because it's limited. It's not going to go on forever. It was never meant to exist forever. It was just a means to an end. It's just there to provide the decision to either do what God wants or not to. That's it. That's all it's about. Okay. So it's about providing that choice. And it's not going to go on for too much longer, because based on, you know, the schedule, right, of the overall, you know, schedule, the calendar, where we are holding in history, all the things that have happened, all the things that they said would have happened, we're holding right about at the end. And you said it at the beginning, at the very beginning, Greg. You said the Satan is dying, right? Right?
Yeah, like because of this video. Because of this video, Frank.
Hopefully.
Believe it or not.
I wouldn't mind contributing to that.
I think that just alone, the ideas of what we're talking about, the expression of making it easy and palatable for other people to understand, it becomes something where they start to understand the whole of the entirety of what we're living in. And I like to say constantly, like, this is a game. I've done enough dimethyltryptamine and enough ayahuasca to know this is not real. And I know where home is, and I know what home feels like. So it's a different game when you've already gone that far within the puzzle and you've come back, you know? And so I see it differently. I feel it differently because of it. I'm not trying to be weird, I'm trying to be existential or anything. It's just, that's the life I lived. That's the thing that I traveled in. And I've stepped outside of this game on many occasions. And when you look back at it, you can't really want to be part of it. Yes. It's hard to be part of it. It's hard to want to spend even $1, because you know that every dollar that you spend is a vote towards what you're really asking for in the end, which in some way is this technocratic government that's on its way. You know, this very dry mechanical world where almost it feels as though we're all going to be wearing gray in the future, because man, soon enough the color that you wear is offensive, and that bothers me, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, it's you know, under the guise of you know, liberation and freedom, it ends up being the most oppressive and the most constricting possible system. And that's really what it was all about in the beginning. And the people who they use in order to push their agenda are the people who just want to be free. And it has a lot to do with ignorance. It has a lot to do with people that have been victimized. It's always easier to manipulate someone who's been through trauma, because emotionally, a person, if they're not really solid in their mental state, if they're not really in control or have a deep understanding of their emotions and what they mean, then you have a bunch of unfortunately, it ends up being a bunch of emotionally incontinent ninnies that become the tool of the people who are trying to manipulate them.
And that's what we have in today's world. I mean, I posted something on my Facebook page, which said that, and I want to read the quote so I don't get it wrong, but basically that, let me find it here real quick. Please forgive me. Texas House votes to ban transgender students from girls' sports.
Yeah.
And that turned into an absolute heyday of people being angry at me. I have a lot of friends from all different walks of life. I have trans friends, I have gay friends, I have every color under the sun friend. It's like, I mean, I know some of the wildest, most amazing street artists of our time. I'm friends with one of the people who created the internet. So it's like,
Al Gore?
With Al Gore.
You're friends with Al Gore? I didn't say what's up. Just kidding. Continue. I apologize.
You're funny, Frank. You're funny. I like you. No, the guy's name is Josh Harris. If you want to look him up, there was a really beautiful documentary that won the Cannes Art Festival one year, and it's called We Live in Public. Beautiful documentary about the man. Basically, he created everything that we know of today. Whether it's social media in and of itself, the idea of having a social media website that would be television, radio, film, news network, everything all in one. It was called Pseudo. He then went on to create.
Okay, Paul, can I tell you something?
Sure.
Pseudo, you're talking about the one of the first broadcasted TV channels on the internet. I used to, dude, in my fledgling DJ days in New York City underground music scene.
Don't tell me you were on the Pseudo.
No, I wasn't on the Pseudo. Pseudo Studio was turned into, they allowed people to use it as a for warehouse parties, and we had open decks, and I was one of the DJs in those.
So then you were at one of Josh Harris's parties.
No, not, well, it wasn't his parties. It was just Pseudo. Just opened up the space for just random people in New York.
Right. So then what happened at the I think it's 1999, 2000.
2000, yeah, correct.
So in this time, at the very, very end of this period, it's so funny that we have a connection. But so what happens is that he created this thing called We Live in Public, which is he actually took the space, which was this warehouse, and he took the lowest floor and he made it into a gun range, and then he made the next floor into a place where everybody was sleeping.
Pseudo was on the 6th floor. It was all the way in the top.
No, this is much later. This is the event of all events.
Wine building. It was a DK Wine building.
So he does this for 30 days. The police break it down on December 31st. He ends up then leaving with his girlfriend, and they get an apartment together, and then they end up living in public on camera with, I think, 76 cameras inside of their apartment.
It was like
they sold subscriptions.
Yoko and John Lennon on steroids? Or?
Yoko and John Lennon on steroids. And she leaves him in like the 4th or 5th month. He starts losing all of his money. All of this happens live on camera while he's living in public. It's a full on, like to the height of the heights, on the cover of GQ and this, that, and the other, every magazine, Forbes, blah, 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 to I'm broke and I lost $80 million. He then leaves and buys an apple orchard. And then he ends up in Africa at one point, teaching kids how to do sports. And then now he's in Las Vegas and lives in a small, tiny apartment and plays poker online for a living. And he's a good friend of mine, and we talk all the time. But the point of the story is not so much about him, but it's the idea that the videos like these, Frank, with people like yourself, with people like Zvi, who are really what our whole being seems to be like at this point, is just like, wake up, like we're freaking out, and that's all we want. And it's when you put people like us together and make videos like this, it starts to change the paradigm. It makes the consciousness shift. It has no other option to do but to do that. The people who are watching on my channel right now,
in America.
the people that are watching on Svi's, you know, I have a semi okay social following, and I know that so does Svi, and so it may be small, but it's weird. The people who we know and the people who do keep in touch with us and watch these kind of videos that we produce are very important people.
It's very not only important, but it's very hazak. It's very like a constant. The level of concentration with a small amount of people is very strong.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very strong.
And I'm glad you guys have platforms. It's kind of like having a friend with a boat. Like you don't want to have a boat yourself, but it's fun to go on. You know, I'll show up with the beers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna own the boat.
I'm down, buddy. Where's the party?
or other things, not just beers. But yeah, we won't say what I think.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I'd rather go green.
Gentlemen, since we're on the topic of I don't know, Frank, you mentioned ministering angels, or you didn't get into that? You're
Well, I mean, okay, so I always somehow mention ministering angels, and you seem to like
no, because that's what you default. You just default to that.
No.
Now, when you say that, are we getting into like the Nephilim? Are we getting into this? Are we also going to maybe get into the Emerald tablets and stuff like that?
We can segue into.
I don't know anything about Emerald tablets, but you mentioned the Nephilim. That is connected.
Sure. So the Emerald tablets, you know, Mesopotamia, Sumeria, they're these cuneiform tablets. They're tablets that are made in a cuneiform, and supposedly they've been translated. And the idea is that there were a race of aliens that came down, created these large style humans that had big heads and big bodies. And that then the same people, these big aliens or these big creatures that were created, started fighting the aliens, and so they destroyed all of them, and they made a smaller version, i.e., humans, and that they made us to really toil in the earth to grab all of the minerals for them.
Okay, so that's a very Zachariah Sitchin and the ancient aliens, and so there's always a kernel. There's always a kernel. So
sure.
I don't want to speak, you know what they say, speak ill of the dead. They always say that, right? Just kidding. That's Norm Macdonald. That's his thing. Like when somebody speaks ill of the dead, he says, you know what they say, speak ill of the dead, right? Anyway, but I'm not going to say, I don't know Zachariah Sitchin like personally, and he might have been a very nice person, but I don't think that he had I know you didn't mention him. I'm just saying that I don't think
it's the ideology. It comes from that place.
So, right. So look, I'm going to say, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like he was able to translate in a very skillful way. It was very, very amateurish. And also in a sense that, when you're reaching for something, when you want something to be true, and so you're biased in that sense, and you're not going to really fight that hard. If the answer seems to be what you wanted it to be, you got to be suspicious. You always have to be suspicious. Like if you're a true person of truth, right? And that's how I like to think that's how I am.
No, true, 100%. I think it's called the bullseye theory, where you first take the shot with the arrow and then paint the bullseye.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing is, that's why I said at the beginning of this whole entire, video that we made, is that I'm contrarian to the whole. As soon as we become the whole, I start to wonder, are we on the right side? Because the idea of the line in the sand between what is a terrorist and what is a freedom fighter is very, very thin when standing on the side of the terrorist or standing on the side of the freedom fighter. So it's like,
just since you brought that up, I've thought about that. I've ruminated on that. I've whittled. When I ruminate, I whittle. I stole that. I'm gonna steal everything from Norm Macdonald. I love that guy.
Norm's in. Yeah. We need to tag Norm
Macdonald. I think was it? I think Dog the Bounty Hunter's days are over. Bounty hunting days are over. How does he go?
No, he's asking Dennis Miller. He's like, so is he gonna get in trouble? Like, is he, and then Dennis Mills like, I don't think so, man. I think he's in trouble. And then he's like, are his bounty hunting days over? I don't know. You have to be there. Whatever. Okay.
Right. I get it.
You got to see that. You got to show him the clip later. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, okay. So there is something to that, but there's also a lot of other things that may not necessarily be in line with the truth. Now, hold on. This is kind of important. Let's define. I'm going to define what I mean by truth, so everybody knows where I'm coming from. Okay. I'm not forcing anybody to feel the way that I do. Just okay. So, to me, the Torah, Tanakh, those documents in their original language, okay, and the Masorah as we received it from Chazal, okay, is the absolute truth. That is, to me, the reason why I feel that way is because when I was studying the actual text and I discovered the mathematical precision that is found in the text itself, and I personally, because I've seen tens of thousands of examples of that kind of mathematical symmetry, I'm talking about gematrias, I'm talking about codes, right? So for me, I realized that this text it's not possible for any finite being to be able to manufacture a text with an infinite amount of quotable data from all points in history.
Right.
That would be the only being that would able to manufacture a text like that would be someone who is above
The creator of the system.
the creator of the system, the one who is not bound to it. Okay.
Sure.
So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not forcing anybody else to. So when I say, the truth, that's how I measure the truth. That's what I measure it against.
It's funny that you mentioned gematria, because that was the one thing that got me pretty hard was, and it was a very simple one. It was shown to me by Yom Tov Glazer, and it was very simple. It was the gematria of Abba and Ima. So you get the base, which is just Ab, and then Im, and 1 equals 3, 1 equals 41, then Yelid equals 44, but you add 1, which is Hashem, and you have Adam, which is 45. Right. And so when I saw that whole system in front of me, just that simple, it's a very simple system. It's not like anything intense, right? But it's like just that alone blew me away. I was like, wait a second, you're telling me that somebody sat around and was able to somehow or other mathematically calculate mother, father, kid plus God equals, and then all other words and all other things had to connect to that to make sense, to make
Frank,
the
I told you he went to, Frank,
like,
I told you Paul went to Aish, so that's what they do at Aish. They do,
right.
Just go right to the gematria.
Yeah, no, I mean, because
well, no, that's actually what happened was I connected very deeply with Yom Tov Glazer. We have some we have some hardcore connections together, weird connections. And so I was actually studying with him on Thursday nights on my own. He would go to a Kabbalist that was in the old city, and he would take me with him.
Not Yitzhak Morgenstern by chance? I'm sorry, not Mr.
Old guy, man.
Rabbi. Oh my God, I have his face.
He's like the guy.
Scheinberger, no?
Yes. Oh my God, let me tell you something. Woof, the things we would hear and the things I would just, man, blew me away. So yeah, there's a big part of me that is connected to the mysticism of Judaism, but there is something that stops me from connecting to the religion and the fanaticism of Judaism that really takes me for a loop and scares me many times.
Well, okay, I can kind of relate to that in a certain way where for instance, I was never really attracted to the cultural aspect because Greg can describe me. I'm a Jewish, I'm a Russian. I was born in the United States. I'm a Brooklyn kid. My parents had a yolka for New Year's.
A tree. like a New Year's tree, but it's like
Yeah, it was a Christmas tree, but it was for New Year's. It wasn't for, you know what I'm saying? It's like a Hanukkah.
It's for
bush.
Novi God. What they have, I mean, in Israel they call Novi God.
Yeah, a Hanukkah bush, a Hanukkah bush.
But I loved eating whatever. I love Big Mac. I love everything about modern life. I love broads. I love going out to clubs. I everything. It's not easy to constrict yourself to the framework of quote unquote God's will. Okay, halacha, whatever. However, when I saw the nature of the text, it made me think like, okay, there's something bigger going on here. This is not a normal text. Perhaps there is a God. Well, I always kind of assumed that. I never had like a personal issue with whether or not God is there. But I was not sure whether or not my religion was any more accurate than anybody else's. That was kind of my viewpoint. Like, God is there. I'm proud of being a Jew, but Christians have something, that the Muslims have something, and the Buddhists, and so on and so forth. But when I saw the nature of the text, it made me reevaluate all that. But I was not prepared for the cultural side of Judaism, which I still am not prepared.
Same.
I never.
It's a very heavy culture. It's a very, very heavy culture. It's a very New York kind of culture.
Oh yeah.
In the sense of like it's a almost a go fuck yourself attitude, like a hey, if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. I'll find somebody else who's gonna buy it.
I get it though. I get it. Like,
I've had that with rabbis. They've done that to me. They saw that I don't subscribe to the culture aspect, but I love the Torah and all these things. But they saw that I'm not trying to fit into what their little thing, box, whatever. And they
the Sanhedrin 71, the 71 that have decided what we wear and why we're sad.
Yeah, but that's not even halacha.
By the way, that's a clue. He just said 71. That's a clue to get back into the ministering angels.
Oh, okay, fine. No,
by the way.
So at some point, these rabbis just stop talking to me.
Right.
So that's basically it.
Yeah, I get. Look, can I defend them for a moment?
Okay.
Defend them?
Sure.
So I get why they are the way that they are, right? I just I realized later, like God, He put me in the family that He did, right? Was I meant to get reabsorbed back into the steppe? Probably not. You know what I mean? And I get why the Satmar are the way that they are, and why everybody is the way that they are, because you're looking at a culture that has been under attack.
Sure.
For like how many, at least 2,000 years, you know what I mean? So they have to, this is a survival mechanism, and it's not really, it doesn't really reveal that aspect of the Torah that I love, that I connected to.
No, and this is what I'm saying to you. This is what stops me from going to the religious side of the mystical, of the spiritual,
but there's a difference.
Of where we came from. We meditated. We didn't have organized religion in some way. We were all finding our own
religion. There's no such thing as religion, actually. Religion is that's a separate topic, but we're talking, like, to me it's science. To me it's physics.
Okay. So I mean, for that, then I say, go read God According to God, and the God Particle.
I do read that. But
both amazing books. I studied with the man. Amazing. Ate dinner at his house. The guy's genius, super genius.
What? Who's the author?
Oh man. God According to God. Gerald Schroeder.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Gerald Schroeder's my man, bro.
Gerald Schroeder looks like he dresses like a secular person.
He's the best guy in the world. Sunday school teacher looking guy. Yeah, he's the best.
He has a kippah. He doesn't.
Gerald Schroeder.
He wears his tzitzit too. He wears his tzitzit, but he just wears them in his pants.
Guys. Gerald Schroeder is a fully observant Orthodox Jewish man.
Yeah.
Keeps every single one of halacha.
Yeah. So he just doesn't flaunt it, Frank. That's what I was saying. Like, he wears his tzitzit, but he wears them inside of his pants. He doesn't do the whole flowy outside.
No, but hold on. There is something to the uniform. There is something to the uniform. That look, each one of these things we're touching on is so massive. You have to have a separate show about it.
Oh, I mean, it's great, isn't it? It's great.
I've had separate videos that I've done on all these stuff.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, but that's not that. What we're getting here, I think.
Oh,
If we want to tie this back together,
you touched upon something. You got to cover it quickly because you're going to get too far away. The thing about some people have accustomed to wear the tzitzis inside. Some people have accustomed to wear them outside.
Yeah.
They're all based on Kabbalistic principles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about not showing. When it comes to Gerald Schroeder, it's not about him not showing the tzitzit. It's because he follows a certain Kabbalistic Masorah, which is fine. All of them are legitimate.
Sure.
And in some instances, it may appear, like for instance, the Italian Kabbalists, like from the time of the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, they would shave. They wouldn't shave. They would be clean shaven, not because they wanted to blend into society. They couldn't give a damn about that.
I didn't know
that. Their thing was that they had a tradition that you're not allowed to grow a beard outside of the land of Israel. I don't know. I don't understand it. I'm just saying that that's what it was connected to. I just wanted to bring.
That's fine. Everybody has their own thing, man. And this is once again, what is that religion or is that fanaticism?
I don't think it's either. I don't think it's either one of them.
How can it?
Well, okay, I'll explain because.
And when you say there's no
religion is a Western term.
I'll explain. What I mean.
Okay, fine. But I mean, we're talking about people who are going to watch this all over the world if they see this.
Instead of describing the iced tea or arguing about it, let's take a sip of it for a second. Well, that will I don't know. You could call it whatever you want, but here's what it is. Okay. So because that document that we have, in my view, and probably many others, could not have been written by man, that it is divine document, right? That thereby it's worth it to carefully examine it and see what it says. And then what it says is to keep it clearly delineates that God has preferences and wants us to do certain things. It talks about it. If you go through the text, you'll see what it says. It says what it says. It says God wants,
which flies in the face of inclusiveness and all these wonderful things that people are trying.
No, not always. I wasn't even going there. I was just going to say that God wants you to. It's for some reason. Look, if it would have said God wants you to go play miniature golf because he likes to play miniature golf, then that's what it says. That we go play miniature golf. If you want to have a relationship. If God says you want to go bowling, if God says you keep the Shabbat because I keep the Shabbat, okay, that's what it says. So that's why it's worth that. That's the point of doing mitzvot. It's to interact with God, to decide to say, okay, I'm going to do what you want me to do because you want to have this relationship. You like these activities. You want to go parasailing. I'm going to go parasailing with you, God. You like, you want to go boating. I'm with you. Scuba diving. I'm there. That's all. That's what mitzvot. That's what commandments are. Now they became a cultural thing, and that's what you're complaining about. And that's right, because you know what that is? There's a word, it's called galut. I'm sure you've heard this word. It's called exile. It's called the Torah in exile. When you see Jews as an ethnicity and as a culture, that's the Torah in exile. That's not how it was supposed to be. That's not what it was meant to be. Okay? We could talk about that. Let's clear the table. You want to clear the table, start from the beginning?
Let's do that. I'm in.
All right. So, okay. So God had this idea, brilliant idea. I'm not sure I'm with him on it, but apparently, he didn't ask me. Okay. He's like, I want to create this world. I want to create a situation. I want to create another being to have a relationship with, and that being will have the option to decide to be in this relationship with me. Okay, fine. Now, literally everything that has ever happened is about just that, nothing else. Only that is the whole shebang right there. Now, so that being is Adam. Okay, Adam is a male-female creature. Okay, he created it male-female. It says right in the text. Says right in the text.
Can I ask a quick question to that? Is that why? I mean, I have this weird theory that that's why you're seeing this whole phenomenon, especially.
Yes, that's because
it's like a misguided way of Adam trying to come back and fuse into
Rabbi
his
Kessin
original
said it.
form.
Rabbi Kessin says it all the time. He goes, the Sitra Achra gets it first.
It's so crazy.
Any
It's all
light
right.
of any light from heaven, any light called the light of, it's called in Hebrew the Or Haganuz, the hidden light. It always goes to the Sitra Achra first.
Oh, I think you were muted.
Sorry,
Oh,
I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, that was just saying what a powerful statement that was just now.
Yeah.
That the Sitra Achra gets it first, and it's so, and it kind of lends to what I was saying about this transgenderism and the futurism technology thing. But my question is technology the Sitra Achra?
No, it is not. The technology is, you can even hear it in the word technology, interesting word, that if you look at the consonants, TKN, right? TKN, or the sounds, right? The T, the
Sure.
ta, the ka, and the na. It's tikkun. It is rectification. Tikkun, rectification. The technology itself is pure light of holiness. It's pure divine light. But the Sitra Achra gets it first. Okay? And it's because the religious miss their opportunities to grab the gift as it comes to this world. And the Vilna Gaon, and listen, I'm a Lubavitcher, right? But I agree with many things from the Vilna Gaon. He said he wanted his followers, and this is, I'm channeling Rabbi Bax now. The
Blessed
psychedelic,
memory.
blessed memory. I thought Paul, you might have heard of him because he was also involved in discussing DMT. But basically, he's saying that when God decided to bring some of the messianic light to the world, part of that messianic light, let's say, was the lower wisdom. The lower wisdom is science and engineering and physics. Okay, and so that is definitely messianic light, and he wanted to give it to the world. And the Vilna Gaon, he wanted the rabbinical scholars to seize it and to be leading the charge in it, to be the ones who are dominant in the field of bringing this to the world. But they didn't seize upon it. It didn't work out for some reason, which is mysterious. They tried. Many tried. And like the Vilna Gaon himself was people don't know this, one of the greatest mathematicians of all time. And was a world expert in natural sciences. You'd have professors from all over Europe coming just to talk to him. A hermit in a hut somewhere in a forest of Lithuania. Okay, he has a mathematical theory that was named after him, Kramer's theory, because his name is Rabbi Eliyahu Kramer, his last name, I believe.
That's craziness.
Anyway, so these guys were no joke, but it didn't work out. They didn't seize on it. It didn't get mainstream because, well, this is just my speculation, because at that point, this is just after Bogdan Chmielnitsky and Shabtai Tzvi. Shabtai Tzvi, who almost destroyed the entire Jewish people. He was a false messiah, right? So anything, if you try to introduce anything new at that point, it's automatically just, people are just like so traumatized by anything that sounds like new and exciting that you just can't deal with it at that point. Small-minded village mentality, but you can't blame the people at that time. Listen, most of this is all God's fault.
Oh, we have a third guest. He's got his own theories. And we can't accept them, and he's upset about it.
But anyway, definitely technology is, God forbid that it is the Sitra Achra, but it goes to the Sitra Achra first because we don't seize on it. Okay, so any light coming from Mashiach, it's called the Messianic light, the Or Haganuz, the hidden light, the light that was created at the first day of creation, that was withdrawn, and it promised, for the quote unquote righteous in the world to come.
Yeah.
Someone has left.
Oh no, I think he went to get the fourth guest.
That's all right. It's all right. We'll wait.
It's fine. He's got a lot to say. He's got interesting ideas to bring. Oh no, is he here? No. He's not. Fine.
There he is. He's back.
No, the fourth. No, whatever. It's fine.
Oh, the fourth guest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I had to chase down a dog.
Yeah. So it talks about, if you read the statements, it talks about the future, right? Even Ari Kaplan, he writes about in the books, he says the future is feminine. The feminine is dominant in the future. That doesn't mean
There you
women
go.
rule men. Okay, because you have,
There you go. Beyonce, who runs the world?
yeah, you have the male aspect and the female aspect in every person individually. Even women, men have the female aspect. It's all about the ratio. Understand? And it's all about using it the way God, the balance according to Torah. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so yeah, so just kind of say, wait, hold on a second. We were talking about, we were supposed to go into the Nephilim, right? Into the ministering angels.
Correct.
71. But before we do that, before we jump into the 71, can we talk about what the 71 Sanhedrin actually did?
The 71
and wait, hold on. And why they changed certain laws and why we wear black and white based on the Second Temple? If you
we
want
don't wear black and white based on that.
No, the black and white thing
That's
is
what I've heard.
That came way later. That's Europe.
Sure,
black
no,
and
I know,
white
but
thing
I've heard that we wear the black and white based on a form of imprisonment or something to this effect.
No, I didn't hear that. Maybe it could be, there's probably a lot of information about it. But
Something to the effect of the Second Temple and the losing of Hashem here on the earth,
black and white,
and putting ourselves into a place of where we all look the same and wear the same, so as to not take away from what we are supposed to be doing, which is really connecting.
no,
Something to that effect.
it could be, but I can tell you what I heard from, what I've actually seen in the sources too. So the black over the white has to do with this idea of external and internal, panemius, right, and chitzonius, as used in the Kabbalistic parlance, and that's what it is trying to emphasize, that try to remember that you are a being that has layers to your consciousness. Okay, and I mean that's just the basic idea. And then like when you have all the different, if you notice, like you go to different Hasidic groups, and each one has their own kind of little, type of hat, their own little color, their own little addition to that. All of that it fits into that model. I don't understand it perfectly well in terms of like.
Is it nothing more than just different translations or different understandings of?
No, it's not at all. Has nothing to do with. It's not. It's purely about that idea. It's about the idea of, well, okay, there is something else that I remember. There's
no, what I meant was when you said that there's different hats, different little things, like for instance, I use this type of blue, or I only get the blue from this certain snail and I won't use any.
That's a law. No, that's a law.
No, I know it's a law, but what I'm saying is that there's some laws, for instance, the idea of if we want to get all the way to it, like, shaving or not shaving of the woman's hair, which or the 5 points in which you can shave and how much you have to shave and so forth.
Shaving of the hair of a woman, that is a custom. The 5 points on the face is straight from the Torah.
But the custom comes from an understanding of the Mizrahim, is that not correct? Like what has been spoken before and ideas of past rabbis, and therefore that's why that happens, and therefore it's the same with the hats and the same with the different things and why certain things are done.
So the custom.
Or am I totally off, Frank? Because if I am, please fix me, man. I'm all about being fixed.
I'm not gonna fix you, but you're a little bit off on certain things. You don't need that much fixing. It's not that. So basically, I probably need more fixing than you. But I mean, look, anybody that you see here in this world is here because they need some fixing. Okay.
Yeah, but what I was trying to get at was like, I don't want to be incorrect in the information that I hold. So whatever it is that I do hold, I would like for that to be correct, right? Because I know that I share this information via conversations when I'm with somebody on the street or when I'm whatever, and you just jump into things and you're like, oh yeah, but on the 71 Sanhedrin and blah blah blah.
I'll explain it. I'll explain it. So I see that most of the difficulty that you're having is with things that are called minhagim, customs. Now customs are extremely important. I'll explain why. They obviously don't supersede Torah law. or the tradition, which is called Moshe Sinai, that we received from Moses straight from Mount Sinai. We don't. That's not. It's obviously a very, very different level. It's not. On the one hand, it's not as important. On the other hand, it might be the most important. Let me explain. The laws that we received from Sinai, that is God communicating to us, saying, this is what I want. Okay? The customs that we develop is us communicating to God, saying, God, this is our special way of trying to observe your commandments with as much beauty and with as much piety as we can. Now, no one, the customs, the minhagim, are not, no one is required to follow them. Those are purely voluntary. You can change your customs if you want. And a lot of times, the customs, people follow customs just because they want to connect to their teacher. And they just want to copy, they want to parrot their teacher. Because they trust in their teacher so much that they're like, his customs must be, if they're good enough for him, they're good enough for me. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. Now, the custom, for instance, let me give you a great one. You might have seen this one. You probably saw this. So the Breslover guys jumping around in the crazy white hats, those little white kippas with the, hey, Paul, you're muted again.
Oh,
Sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, I've done it. I've actually hung out with a group of them from upstate New York and lived with some and actually painted one of their buses for them.
Yeah, so this is how it was explained to me. That custom came, that hat, which is a dorky looking hat, right? Everybody wears it because a couple of 100 years ago, there was a lady who she didn't have a livelihood in some shtetl somewhere in Poland, okay? But she knew how to knit, and she knitted this really weird looking hat. And I think the Rebbe, was it Reb Nachman? I probably was Reb Nachman, right? He bought the hat from her and wore the hat to advertise her crazy hat so that everybody would go and buy her hat so she could have a livelihood. That's where the hat is from. Do you understand? So and for instance, the Streimels that they wear, right? The fur hats, right? So that was not even a Jewish thing. That was imposed on us as a way to humiliate Jewish people by the Polacks and the Ukrainians.
Mm-hmm. Hello. Hello. Lost audio. Hello. Gentlemen, hello. Internet connection. Oh.
The distinction. This making us distinct from these evil, from the Sitra Achra, right? And so we're gonna turn it around. We're gonna elevate it, and we're gonna wear it as a badge of honor. And not only that, it appears, like the shape of a torus, that geometric form, a bagel, like a donut shape, right? Like a swirling, rotating torus, right? It has that appearance, which is supposed to make somebody think of the sphere of Keter, the crown sphere. So that's how these things develop. It's because Judaism didn't stop 2,000 years ago. It's a living, breathing relationship with God. So the things that you see most on the external, the levush, the garments that you see, that is just a roadmap of where we've been and what we've been through and what God has put us through and our reaction to it. You're muted again, dude. I can't hear you.
And you don't consider that to be on some level a form of fanaticism and not just a form of what you're calling tradition?
No, I don't see that as fanaticism.
Oh, because I mean, so is it a then I'll turn it around and be contrarian even upon myself. Is it then a place for other people to learn that what is thrown against you in a way that is made to make you look bad can be worn as a badge of honor?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think so. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So what was once something that was looked down upon is now spent thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars on to emulate the past and in some way remember how we were treated And yet now that we are free and that we're not in this world and we are in the Zionistic movement, we wear these hats to show a sense of pride.
We wear the hats because everything that a Jew is supposed to do is supposed to, where we are supposed to emulate the behavior of the Creator based on what he is showing us that he does. I got to explain that very carefully.
Woo.
Okay. So, okay. You've heard of the Sphirot. You've heard of the Sphirot?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Okay. So you see, God in his essence is untalkaboutable. You can't, there's no way to touch upon, there's no way to define him, because everything that we're going to say, everything that we will ever know, ever come into contact with, even potentially, is part of the creation. Okay, God is totally outside of it in his essence. The creation is a communication. The entire creation of the entire universe, physical and spiritual worlds, is all about God showing us what he wants. This is what I want. And he also appears to us. He comes dressed in a guise. He comes dressed in a costume. And that costume is reflective of what he wants us to emulate. It's more about us than it is about him. Okay? It's not, so when the prophets have a vision, if you read in Tanakh, they have a vision about, they see like an old Gandalf looking guy, right? That's God. God's coming looking like Gandalf in the vision of the prophets, right? Obviously, it's not a physical thing. And the prophets understood that this is a language, that this is a visual language that God is using. It is not God as he is unto his essence. Sometimes God comes as a young warrior with long black hair in red armor, with a sword drawn. So they understand that God is not a young warrior with long black hair in red armor with his sword drawn. It's just a message. Okay. Sometimes God comes as a hot chick. I'm serious. I'm not even joking.
No, I get it. I'm with you. God is all, but at the same time, God can also become.
He comes. He comes dressed in a sense, metaphorically speaking, in these guises to communicate something specific. Okay, so that's what the Sphirot are all about. All the customs that you see, all the mitzvot, and all the customs that you see people do are connected to the cosmic behavior of the Shekhinah in all of its manifestations. Okay, you have this idea called the Partsufim. The Partsufim are groups of Sphirot. They're grouped in a certain way. Okay, now this is all God putting on a show for us. It's like we're sitting in the audience and God is putting on a show. And he's both the mother and the father.
You know what I think of when you say that, remember in Men in Black where you see like this cosmic dance?
Yeah, when they're playing marbles or something like that.
Yeah, some stuff like that, yeah. With the planet, you go like this. Yeah.
It's a little different, but basically
if you want later, Frank, I'll go into one of my DMT trips. It's very much that story right there. And it was very intense, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, that's partly Rabbi Bax is saying that people are going to the city of Luz without realizing it. But city of Luz is where you can experience a lot of these, Okay, so basically you have different partsufim where, imagine this, like you have like one guy, right? Like you go to let's say you need to buy stamps. You go to this like town center. It's a small town where they have everything in there in one building. The post office, the DMV, you get your photos developed. The 2-hour photo development. You can rent the movie, right? So when you go to get your postage stamps, right? So you run and you see there's God with his post office hat on. It says post office, right? And then you run over to rent the video. All of a sudden he put on his Blockbuster shirt, right? And it's all just God putting on a show. Okay? Dude, you're muted again.
I'm muted again. Sorry, my dog, and I didn't want it to interrupt you.
That's all right.
Interrupt you. And so it goes, have you ever heard this thing from Ram Dass? He says, it's a really beautiful kind of like poem, because I was walking in the forest and I saw all these different types of trees. and one stood up straight and strong, and another one had to bend just to catch just a little bit of light, and another one was crooked and it bent down to the ground. And I was amazed at the beauty of all these trees. And then I was walking in the city just the other day, and I saw this person who was wearing this very loud clothing, and another person who was screaming at somebody else from across the way, and another person who was bowing down and taking a flower and smelling it. And I stopped there and then, and I said, man, I wish I could see all these people like I did those trees. It's just a good little poem, you know. Wish you could see the beauty of who we are. You know, we don't see that enough, and we are constantly being told that we're kind of wicked. And it's not that we're wicked, it's that we've been forced to be wicked. And it hurts, Frank.
Well,
You know?
a lot of the things that we are called, well, we're told that we're wicked, when in fact a lot of the things we're being accused of being wicked is not wickedness, and a lot of the things that is being promoted as non-wickedness is wickedness. That's a whole different aspect.
Right.
You wanted to say something?
No, whatever looks like we're being wicked in or as is just a reaction to the wicked.
Mm-hmm.
All we're doing is sing. It's like Batman. He's just singing to the level of the criminal. He looks like the
He looks like the criminal. He looks
the
like
guy
the
who caused all
vigilante.
the ruckus, you know. But
That's the calling card of the Sitra Achra. They make righteousness into wickedness, wickedness into righteousness.
yeah, they make it look like.
Yeah, no, it's what I like to say, you know, what used to be fame was somebody who worked really hard to get something or do something, or somebody who was a very well seasoned actor, or maybe an athlete like a Michael Jordan, or a phenomenal entertainer like a Michael Jackson. But that whole idea has gone from what was fame and what was infamy to now infamy is fame, and fame is like your sidebar character that just comes and goes. It's just some kind of crappy story.
Everybody could be famous. Everybody could be famous on Instagram for 15 minutes. Everybody can be.
Yeah, but that's all based on infamy, is what I'm saying, right? It's an infamous type of style behavior.
I think it began with. I was talking to my friend Ari Lewis, who's also appeared on this platform. We were talking about how all this infamy stuff began, right, during the OJ trial. So everything that, if you look at culture today, if you look at all the people who are running culture today. Kardashian was his friend, and then from that came Kim Kardashian, the Kardashians, Paris Hilton, and all this pop,
Well, actually, so I don't know if you know
Inside Edition and hard copy, all this stuff.
I don't know if you know this. So Paris Hilton had, at the age of 16, she had a best friend who was Kim, and Kim was her social media girl.
Yeah, she was like,
and she was running everything so that Paris didn't have to type it. Literally, so that Paris didn't have to type it. So when Paris sold her movie, she already knew the lawyer that Paris went through, and she used the exact same thing when she sold her movie with her rapper boyfriend.
Kim and Paris, those two.
They both did the exact same thing. But the thing is, the difference was that Paris didn't want to go the route that Kim didn't mind taking.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think Paris was pushed out of the game.
She wasn't pushed out of the game. Did you see her documentary about how she was like in high school, and she ended up in like this center for kids in Denver? She realizes that it's all BS. This is all an act. This is all a persona.
Right, but she's doing a series right now on YouTube that's called.
That's the series. That's her. That's
I've been watching
about that. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, I've been watching it, and it's very. Very
so that's even that.
Some of the things that she says at the ends of each one of the videos, it's very kind of like, oh, you're not seeing anything. There's a mirror right in front of you of exactly what this is, and she's still typing away. Like, there's so many lonely people in Hollywood, and she's sitting there in her house by herself typing, and it's like, do you not? Tick, 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 tick. Like, it's like, do I have to hit the camera for you to actually feel like? I'm not sure how this works anymore. You know what I mean? It's like
that channel Norm Macdonald.
Yes.
What's that? Norm Macdonald Norm Macdonald said something. He's like, you know, there's an astronaut. His name is Harrison Schmitt. Anybody have heard of him? They're like, everybody's like, no. He goes, he was like the sixth man to walk on the moon. So he's probably thinking to himself, like, what do I have to do to get famous, right? I walked on the moon. Meanwhile, some girl with a large butt is famous all over the, you know, all over the world. We, you know, that's what everybody knows. So
It's crazy.
that's Citra Achra, man. How could, like, muted, you're muted again.
So gentlemen, you just,
did it
so,
again.
Frank, you just mentioned space. Can we just like do, you know, like we're like a Alexander, what's this, the McQueen car, and just do like a U-turn, as we say in Brooklyn, or Papa Yui, and just start talking about, I don't know what you call it, UFOs, ETs, and the connection to Mashiach and the connection.
So now we're back to 71. We're back to the 71.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the ministering angels because that's also
So-
But I mean,
so
isn't that the connection as well, Frank, or no?
Yeah, the Sanhedrin down here below on the earthly Sanhedrin.
Gentlemen, I'll be back in a second, by the way. Just keep talking.
Sure.
Okay.
The earthly Sanhedrin is a reflection, to a certain extent, of the quote unquote heavenly Sanhedrin. So the heavenly Sanhedrin are these, for lack of a better word, ministering angels. Okay, angels are just, the word angel is kind of a misnomer. It's in Hebrew, it's malach. You probably know that. It just means messenger. It just means somebody that God sends to do something. Okay, can come in any form. They're not hot blondes. I wish they were, or maybe they are. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't matter. You understand? So the point is that there were 70 during. Okay, the Torah talks about this one situation where it was after the flood, and the people, the survivors after the flood, as they started to grow in population, and they were traveling through this valley called Shinar, which is a code word for something, and they found something there. They found some of the ancient technology that the pre-flood people had. Okay, and so and this is literally what the Torah and the commentators are saying. They're saying that they started to build a quote unquote city and a tower, and they wanted to make war with God. So what does that mean? There were two factions. One of them wanted to actually go and fight the angels that brought about the flood. The other group wanted to go, and they wanted to go to an already settled moon colony. I shit you not. It's literally, look, that's not the best known commentary, but it comes from very authoritative rabbinical sources like Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, 1600.
I've heard a lot of this.
Yeah, so you know, that's not the pshat level of commentary. Pshat means like, what's the very basic moralistic, the most basic moralistic takeaway from the story. That's not what it is. But the idea is that they did not want to be subject to God, because on this planet, they didn't want to be subject to another flood. You understand? They didn't want to be punished. They didn't want to be in the God system, where if they do something wrong, then there's some kind of retribution. They wanted to escape that bubble where retribution would be able to find them if they did something against God's will. Because the way that God created the system is that the system itself responds when something is going against, let's call it the laws of nature. Okay, like there's or the primary program, let's say. It's actually best to think about the entire universe as a virtual simulation, a computer. The most sophisticated computer. This goes actually into something you said earlier about that we're already built in with the most sophisticated technology there is. They don't just, and this whole transhumanism thing, those guys are way in the Stone Age compared to what we already are. We have to discover that. Anyway, so basically we live in the most sophisticated holodeck on the Starship Enterprise you can imagine. Way more, okay? It was automatically there at the highest level of sophistication. And it comes equipped with commands and with with the whole computer language and everything. And when people try to go around the primary programming, the primary operating system, the system reacts. okay? And then it sends Agent Smith or whatever. I don't know. Just whatever metaphor you want to use, okay? So they wanted to figure out a way to get out of that. And some of the technology that they found was part of their attempt to do that. So what happened was, instead of destroying them, because God actually liked something that they did, even though they band together because they want to rebel against his authority, he liked the fact that they were working together, that they were in a unity. That's why they weren't wiped out, when they didn't start over again. But what he did was like this, he wanted to disconnect this unity, because the unity was used for an evil purpose at that time. Okay, so he sent these 70 angels. Now, where these 70 angels came from, what we're going to talk about in a second. Okay, he sent these angels, and each angel created their own specific language and culture. Took a group of people from this unified population and created a separate language and culture. The people couldn't understand each other, not just in physical language, but they were on different wavelengths. They couldn't see eye to eye on anything. And their plan could not move forward because everybody had their own ideas.
Frank, in case you're wondering why you can't reach people, you talk to people on Twitter, let's say, and you realize that you're saying something and they just can't understand what you're saying, or any social media. That's exactly what
that is exactly right. That is exactly part of it. And that's how it's been since, basically. Okay. So there, all of a sudden, instead of one unified approach, all of a sudden there's 70 different approaches, 70 different philosophies, 70 different languages, 70 different cultures, and all that kind of stuff. So each angel, in effect, started a nation. Okay. Now, this didn't come out of nowhere. Like this particular type of language and culture and this number 70, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It came from something before. It always comes from something before. Okay. So the 70 is related to what's written about Adam. Adam, it says before his fall, and remember, before his fall, his primary consciousness was in the world of Yetzirah. And it says that this is obviously symbolic language because there's no way to physically picture it, but he had 7 rays of light protruding from his head. Okay, a ray of light represents data and information, or a pathway, and this was originally within Adam. Okay, now these cultures are not inherently bad. They're not bad in and of themselves. They were part of Adam, and so they obviously have something to contribute. They have some role to play in God's creation. Okay. So like everything else, it needs to be rectified. But so Italians can stay, Irish can stay, the Chinese can stay. I don't know about those. I'm just kidding. I was gonna say I don't know about those Eskimos. They seem smug. That's from Anger Management. Remember the movie Anger Management? Yeah. He's like I don't know. They seem smug anyway. So Eskimos can stay too. Okay. So basically,
all lives matter. Okay.
Right, so the 70. Okay, this amount of angels, this has something to do with the angels not being huge fans of how God wanted to go about doing something. Okay, remember, angels are God fanatics. They live in a realm. They live in a realm where God reveals to them constantly. They're always in the presence of some form of godly revelation, meaning God comes to them and presents himself in a certain form, and that their exposure to it is all the time. They're never not exposed to godliness or to a revelation of God, and all they can do is just want to be a part of that. And they do have their own minds, and they do have their own intellects, and they're not robots, and they do have the ability to have the potential for free will, but only when they come to a place like Earth where there is no revelation of God at all. Okay, then they can start slowly getting affected by this. This is a rough neighborhood. This is a rough place to be, the world that we're living in now. So God said that I'm going to send Adam to the quote unquote earth, which actually means the physical universe, by the way. That's the primary, the initial definition of earth. It doesn't mean just our planet. It means the physical universe. Okay. And the heavens means, you know, all the unseen dimensions. But so basically, he said, I'm going to send Adam to rectify what's going on in the physical universe. So you might ask a question at this point. Why do we need rectification? Wasn't the world just created? Nope. This world is version 1 billion of the almost eternity amount of worlds that came before us. Okay. Now, this is not trial and error experimentation. This is called the world of chaos. This is an idea which is a whole separate 5-year discussion. Okay. But essentially, well, we just can't get into it. There's too many tangents. So the point is that there were things before this universe. Okay. And there are leftovers, things that need to be rectified from the previous universes. By the way, we were all there in the previous universes too. Okay? We were proto-consciousnesses in many forms, and here we are. And I think, according to a lot of Kabbalists, I think we're in the last cycle. This is the last of the cycles. Okay, whatever. That's beside the point. So the point is that the angels have been around a long time. Okay, and you had something called the Adamic souls. Okay, sometimes they're called Metatron. Sometimes they're called Zer Anpin. They were with God. They're not considered part of the creation. They're considered part of the creator. That's a whole other discussion. Okay. So he said that God said to angels, I'm going to send the Adamic consciousnesses down to the lowest of the worlds, which is not lowest in importance. It's just the last in the chain. And actually, it's the primary in importance. The physical world, not the heavens, the physical world. This world is the end goal. Okay. So I'm going to send Adam, the highest of all consciousnesses, down to your neck of the woods, and he's going to fix things up. And the angels are like, God, don't do that. I mean, it's not a good idea. I mean, you know, let us handle it. This is our job. So they felt threatened. Their position felt threatened. They wanted to impress God. They were trying to be God fanatics. And they thought that, some of them perhaps even thought that maybe God was like testing them, you know, to see like if they would show the initiative, and so they wouldn't have to send the lofty souls of Adam down to this world to fix it. Who knows what they were thinking? I'm not an angel. I don't even know what an angel is. Okay. But some of them said, no, we got to go down there, and we got to show God that we can do this. Okay. As soon as they came to earth, immediately broads, clubs, drinking, you know, ecstasy, you know, just freaking like, you know, what's it called? What's that? The rainbow gathering, you know, what's the thing in the desert where everybody goes?
It's Burning Man.
Burning Man instantaneously.
We have one in Israel called Midburn.
Well, midburn, the reason they call it a midburn is because it happens in between the year of when the burning happened. So it's a midburn.
And also midbar.
No, but it's literally from, like, if the burn happens, the burn is called the burn for a reason, right? Burning Man, because it's the burn. Yeah. So when Burning Man happens, and then half year through, everybody has what's called a midburn, and they have them all over the world. So it's not just in one place, but one of the real popular locations that the midburns have taken off is Israel.
They wanted the midburn. Let's go get an 8-ball. Let's go to Dominican. Let's go to Punta Cana. Let's go right away. Everything you could possibly imagine.
I like Punta Cana. That's the last time I had bacon. Punta Cana.
Right. They fell. Those angels, they fell hard. Okay. They were not built. God told them that you're not suited for that environment. You're not going to do it. Don't even. And then they kept insisting. And he's like, okay, go ahead. So they came down, and all of a sudden they saw the daughters of Cain, and they're like, wow, look at these hot broads. And then all of a sudden, and they didn't care if they were married.
Daughters of Cain were the first Instagram models, is what you're saying to me.
Yeah, they were the first. What do they call them now?
Instagram models.
Thoughts.
Oh yeah, thoughts. What
is it?
Thoughts.
The first. They were the first thought.
A thought is a woman who has many casual sexual encounters in a relationship. But what is that hoe over there? That is the acronym.
I should say something at this point because I don't want to get in trouble with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is author of the Zohar. Okay, so he said he would say, metaphorically, a curse upon anybody who would call them angels. Not because they weren't angels, but because what they really were was something much, there was a much deeper thing to their essence. What they were this is the way Rabbi Baxter describes it. They were a radioactive-like residue that was left over from the previous cycles that leaked its way into that world, which is why it's part of the reason why they would, in a sense, challenge God's will in order to fulfill God's will. You understand? That's that fanaticism that you don't like, by the way. The idea of being more religious than God. Don't be more religious than God.
Yeah. Don't be firmer than God. That's what. Yeah.
So they came down and they just screwed up just absolutely instantaneously. They had kids with these women. Now, hold on a second. Now, if you talk to certain rabbis who either don't know this, they don't get involved in these commentaries or in this, in the Kabbalistic limud, right? They'll tell you that these B'nai Elohim, as they are described in chapter 6 of Bereshit, that they were the sons of the nobles, the sons of the authorities who took advantage of the lower classes. That is actually accurate. What they're not going to tell you is that the upper classes were these angels that were set to, they were in charge of everything, of all the affairs, on the earth, in the earth, outside of the earth, and everywhere else in the universe. Okay, they did God's will. They were the son. That's what it means, the sons of God. So they were nobles in a sense. They were authoritative, and these angels were the sons of. So they're right at the same time, except they're trying to conceal the fact that there was more to this than just human noblemen. Okay, so if you hear that, then like Tovia Singer, he'll say, he often says that these are the sons. It's true, but he doesn't want to go any deeper than that because he's scared the Christians are going to freak out. Whatever. So basically, that's what happened. Now they screwed up big time, and instead of helping the situation, instead of doing the rectification, they made it infinitely worse. Infinitely worse. They create, and in fact, their activities led to such a deterioration of nature itself, of the programming. They fucked with the operating system to such an extent that God had to reboot. That's called the flood.
No.
Okay. So, and the flood was way more complex and a way larger scale than just a big flood on the earth. There was things going on a universal level. It was something in the operating system itself. It wasn't just simply a local event on the earth and with water and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so.
Frank, can I pause for a second? Rabbi, at the risk of going off on another sub-tangent, Rabbi Kessin, basically at the beginning of this pandemic, said that COVID is another, we're in a flood, we're in a teva, in the flood.
Right, so the flood is, it doesn't necessarily need to be see, look, why did the flood happen when it happened? Because there was an event that was already scheduled to occur at that point, okay? It was supposed to be, that was one of the potential calendar dates for the coming of Mashiach back then.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the flood was supposed to be a flood of the Or HaGanuz, this messianic light that we were talking about, okay? But because because of the behavior of the people and, influenced by those other beings, it came down in a different form. In a sense, people have the ability to choose what form it comes down in, like choose the form of your destructor, right? The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It could come as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, or it could come as, you get what I'm saying. Okay, so basically, when all was said and done, these angels who came down and screwed up big time. And by the way, this is the whole thing about Prometheus, showing fire to the to the people. this comes from that idea that these angels, they came like Lucifer, right? This whole Luciferian idea. It also probably has its roots in this idea that that these angels came, they showed the people all the hidden sciences, all the hidden physics, all the stuff that we haven't even gotten to and that we won't get to for 50,000 years. They were way ahead of us, so far ahead of us that we can't even imagine. Okay, the people from before the flood, we wouldn't even necessarily recognize them as Homo sapiens. They would look like gods to us. Okay, that's a different story. Okay, so so basically, God said to them, "All right, you guys screwed up big time. Now, here's your rectification. Now you are going to run the affairs of man from a distance. You're not going to be spending too much time on the earth proper. Okay, you're going to be hovering and just kind of, on the outskirts in one way or another because you idiots can't handle it. Okay, but you're going to follow my laws. You're going to follow my instructions, and you are going to fix the destruction that you have caused." And that's what the ministering angels are now. Now, it's way more complex than what I just said, because remember, each ministering angel represents a different energy, a different pathway, a different philosophy, a whole different everything. Each angel is an essence of an entire way of being. Okay, all of them have the mandate from God, and which one of them is going to assert itself depends on our behavior. Okay, and proof of that is in the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel. By the way, a lot of this information I got from Bart Sadok. I just wanted to,
The Rabbi Bart Sadok on YouTube.
Yeah. So basically, in the book of Daniel, there's this one part, I'm going to paraphrase, where, Gabriel goes to Daniel, the angel Gabriel goes to Daniel, says, he goes, "Dude, I'm sorry I'm like 3 weeks late, man, because I was trying to get this message to you, but the freaking angel of Persia wouldn't let me through. I had to go get Michael for backup. And I had to beat up this." Yeah, this is what it says. I'm serious. So the question is, well, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean the angel of Persia prevented you? How could an angel prevent another angel from doing God's will? That's because they were both doing God's will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and sometimes, look, why did God do it this way? I don't know. Okay, there's a lot of mysterious things that I wish wouldn't be the way that it is. But I'm just kind of relating to what is rather than why.
Frank, what are your thoughts on the idea of Jupiter and Judaism and the 6 points on the top of Jupiter? Have you ever heard any of these kinds of ideas?
When they replaced in the Beit HaMikdash, the Romans came and they put the statue that was Jupiter, right?
I'm just asking. I'm just saying, have you heard of these connections and these kind of things? There's YouTube videos about it and weird stuff out there.
There's a bunch of anti-Semites who say that the Jews are Saturn worshippers. And
Saturn.
Right. So
Saturn. Okay, that's what it was.
So this comes from I believe, I can't remember which Roman historian, was it Tacitus or one of the Pliny? I can't remember. Where they have something where the Romans were always trying to look at all the cultures that they interacted with through the prism of their own mystical language, their own philosophical/religious language, where they're like for instance, we can do that too. For instance, let's say, a bunch of Jews, we come and we go to freaking Norway or Sweden, right? And like, we worship Thor, right? So Thor, describe Thor. Thor is the god of thunder. He's this and that, and then.
This is a very racist accent you're doing right now, Mr. Frank.
I love it. It's
actually, no, I'm sorry. What did you call it? Not racist. You called it cultural chauvinism. You're being a cultural chauvinist right now. And this is not good for my podcast.
Hey, they know what they sound like. They choose.
You sound like the chef from freaking.
They went with that. They could have sounded like the Fonz, but they sounded like the Swedish chef.
Thor. Oh.
Yeah, they could have sounded cool, but they went with the Swedish anyway.
So I found the video. Is my video? Am I?
No, but hold on.
I found the video that I was talking about, Frank, and it's Saturn and Judaism, Metaphysics of the Gods. And it's by a guy named B.R. Taylor.
Yeah.
And it's got like 20,000 views or 14,000 views.
Listen, there's no shortage. There's no shortage of the energy of Esav hates Yaakov.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I just don't know how.
No.
So
It's
basically,
like, what is it?
Okay, so hold on.
So it comes from this idea. You were saying, where does this idea come from?
Okay, so first of all, if you read the Tanakh itself, there were periods of time, giant stretches of time, when the 12 tribes would be worshiping horrible pagan religions. Okay, and so that they did. You had Jews and and the other tribes involved in all sorts of crazy shit, Baal worship, freaking Moloch. Like even stuff that was like even the non-Jews were looking at it like, damn, they're doing that shit. Like that's how crazy
they're doing that. We're screwed. That's what they were thinking.
Right? They're like, damn, we didn't even do that. Like it was more gangster than the gangsters. Like that's what there was like for huge periods of time, and that's why you needed the prophets to come and be like, come on, people, we gotta. Anyway, so some of those religions were based on the religions of the people around, the Canaanites. So the Canaanites worship, the Greeks worshiped Kronos. Kronos is Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Greeks at various stages of history interacted with the Hebrew tribes at various stages of history and saw them interacting and worshiping alien religions, so that's like, oh, that's what they worship. So, and it was recorded at different periods of time, and that's kind of how it made its way into anti-Semitic circles.
Mm-hmm.
But it couldn't be further from the truth. That's not the Jewish religion. That was Jews, being Hindus or whatever. You know what I mean, or whatever it was at the time. Okay, so that's where that comes from.
By the way, Frank, what so I hate to veer for 1 second. As we were talking about way in the beginning of the video about, what is it, plebeians and patricians and different classes of people, strata of people. My friend sent me on WhatsApp today. There's a video from New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern when asked by a reporter if she was creating two classes of people with the ones that took the who have special privileges, and the ones who didn't obviously don't. And she confirmed, yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. Yep. So basically, they're just creating a whole hierarchy of people at this point.
Yeah, they're not hiding it, of course.
With this elixir,
They're literally doing it in your face. They're walking around.
Yep.
Look. Gavin Newsom knows that he's going to be spotted without a mask.
Yeah.
After issuing a mask mandate.
Same thing with all these, the Chicago mayor and Biden and Pelosi and all, and like everybody.
They're not idiots. They know they're going to be spotted. That means they want to be spotted.
And they don't care.
The message they're sending.
Yeah. We are us and you are you and screw you, and that's it.
Okay. So
there's the video of Biden talking to the worker and saying, I don't work, the guy goes like, you work for me. And the guy looks back and
he's like, I don't work.
Biden looks at the guy and looks at him. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah. No, he said, I don't work for you. He said, I'm not, I don't, yeah.
No, I don't work for you. Don't be an idiot. And
he's right. He doesn't work for you. He works for some conglomerate of people. We don't even know their faces, except for one guy who we kind of think he funds everything.
That used China to communicate to Biden. Okay. Biden thinks he works for China. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so how does this relate to everything you're saying about these angels? How does this relate to what we're seeing recently with all these crafts and all this UFO and all this kind of stuff?
So you know what we say a prayer. It says, when God makes peace upon the heavens, He makes peace upon us.
Mm-hmm.
We say that, right?
Yeah.
That's in Kaddish, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that.
Yeah.
Right. That's so the primary meaning of that is that he stops the ministering angels from squabbling, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah.
Okay, gets them in order, and then they become the armies of heaven.
Is that why you can't talk during Kaddish? Because you have to be like the angels. You have to pay attention to what the guy.
Right. A big part of being an angel is worshiping God all day. I don't know what that means, but that's what they do. So the point is that once a certain amount of work is done on the earth, whatever that means, I don't know, then when it's time for Mashiach to come, then they, in a sense, they pledge fealty to him, in a sense, and he instructs them, okay, to begin a process, okay, and then they have to do exactly what he says. Now, in Zechariah, just to channel some of my Christian friends.
Whereas Mizrahi would say Zachary 14.
Right. So Zechariah, right? In the book of Zechariah, it mentions that Mashiach comes with the armies of heaven. Okay, so what does that mean? The Zohar talks about that too. Okay, so what does that actually mean? There's lots of different philosophical and moralistic interpretations, but just like everything, it's always layered, and it even has an aspect to it which is part of the world of Asiya, right? So, which means, what's the physical expression of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's where I'm going to get into my personal speculation as to what's been going on. Okay. Now, for about 70 years, look, for the past 3 years, it's been all over the news. Tic Tacs, UFOs, Tic Tacs, the Navy UFOs. This, I'm sure you're familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
Jeremy Corbell releasing videos about, these things flying and, harassing Navy destroyers.
Yeah, then you had the pilot goes on Joe Rogan and he can,
The pilot, yeah, that's the main one, David Fravor.
As well as the ex-CIA.
That guy, that's Semivan, Jim Semivan.
And then the Israeli professor, he just straight up said there's a federation and Trump talks to them.
Right, the Israeli professor who was he was the head of the Israeli Space Agency. All of a sudden, he's a wackadoodle out of nowhere.
What?
Right, all of a sudden he's a wackadoodle. Anyway, so basically, you have these videos which the Navy essentially first released, and then they officially admitted that they are legitimate videos and they are truly unidentified. After lengthy investigations, we cannot find any normal explanation for the behavior of these objects. We can't explain it according to physics, okay? And then you have a whole bunch of characters that are associated with this whole story. But okay, but even before that, you had a person like Lieutenant Colonel Robert Salas. He was a nuclear missile launch officer at Malmstrom Air Force Base in late 60s, 67, I think. Okay, you could look it up, obviously. And so he was one of the guys who was, they have this bunker deep in the earth. I don't know how many, like 20 levels, 30 levels down, where those are the guys who have the controls to the ICBMs, that they can launch the ICBM, the nuclear missile launch officer, okay? There's two guys, and you have to have two guys turning the key at the same time in order to set it off. And
there's a code and all that stuff.
Yeah, and each one of these underground command bunkers, whatever you call them, was had the ability to set off, I think, either 10 or 20, I can't remember that detail, either 10 or 20 ICBMs. They had the ability to set it off. Remember, this is in the late 60s. Everything's hardwired, right? Okay, so the guy, Salas, he got a phone call from the chief of his security, because you have these, you have teams of military security constantly driving around the perimeters of these nuclear missile. These are vast areas. Each missile is like 10 miles apart from each other, each silo. So, and it's over a vast area in Montana. And he got a call saying that there was a giant red glowing object just hovering above one of the nuclear missile silos. And as he was saying that, he could tell on his switchboard, the guy, the missile launch officer, Robert Salas, he could see that each one of his missiles was going into no-go, meaning he was not able to launch them. There was something wrong with the connection or whatever. Okay? And then the thing basically flew away. And then there's a lot of more details to the story, but I just want to get to it. So when they did an investigation, they sent a guy from Boeing, I think, from the Boeing company. I can't remember what.
We talked to.
So when they did an investigation to find out why the missiles went down, they found no visible interference. There was no wires were cut, nothing was damaged, nothing. So what's going on? So this is one example of stuff that happened a lot. After Robert Salas came forward, he made a press conference where he brought all the documents, from the Freedom of Information Act and everything was confirmed. In 2010, he had a press conference where he talked about it. And I know the man was telling the truth. You know why? It was so boring. Oh my God. The guy, when these military guys talk and they're telling you the truth, you're gonna fall asleep because they're the details are so dry.
It's all like technical and everything.
So it's like, all right, this guy's telling the truth. Anyway, that part was a joke. But the point is that you had a lot of these, after he did that, after he came forward, you have a lot of these other nuclear missile launch officers coming forward from their experience all through the decades, from the 60s, 70s, from the 80s. Then you got the Russians coming forward with their experiences.
Yeah, they had a freaking craft that crashed in the forest that they kept hidden for freaking whatever.
I heard about that too. I'm not, I'm just telling about the officially recognized dudes that came forward with documents, and everybody is recognizing them. They're like, yeah, that guy's real. Okay. They came forward. Russians, the Chinese haven't come forward because they're probably, they don't want to seem like they're so vulnerable as the rest of us, which of course they are, way more. Okay. So what's going on? And then you have these pilots coming forward and saying these tic tac things are breaking the rules of nature. They're flying circles around us, and and they're messing with our systems. They can somehow wirelessly reach into your system and mess with you, whatever.
Right, can I quickly, just before you go on, can I read very quickly this article from, just to reiterate to people who are watching who missed the whole story about the Israeli professor talking about the Federation. I just really quickly want to read it. This is from December 10th, 2020. This is very recent. Former Israeli space security chief says aliens exist, humanity not ready. I'm surprised they actually even published this. He says, has the state of Israel made contact with aliens? According to a retired Israeli officer and current professor, Chaim Eshed, the answer is yes, but this has been kept a secret because humanity isn't ready, quote unquote. Speaking in an interview with Ynet, Eshed, who served as the head of Israel's space program for nearly 30 years, and is a three-time recipient of the Israel Security Award, explained that Israel and the US have both been dealing with aliens for years. As this by no means refers to immigrants, with Eshed clarifying the existence of a galactic federation. The 87-year-old former head of Defense Ministry's Space Division gave further descriptions about exactly what sort of agreements have been made between aliens and the US, which ostensibly have been made because they wish to research and understand, quote unquote, the fabric of the universe. You were talking about all this stuff. This cooperation includes a secret underground base on Mars, where there are American and alien representatives. So we wonder why Mr. Musk is trying to go to Mars. If true, this would coincide with US President Donald Trump's creation of the Space Force as the fifth branch of the US Armed Forces, though it is unclear how long this sort of relationship, if any, has been going on between the US and its reported extraterrestrial allies. But Eshed insists that Trump is aware of them, and he was on the quote unquote on the verge of disclosing their existence. However, the Galactic Federation reportedly stopped him from doing so, saying they wish to prevent mass hysteria since they felt humanity needed to quote unquote evolve and reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are, what they actually are, not just crafts, like you said to me before. Ynet said, as for why he's chosen to reveal this information now, Eshed explained that the timing was simply due to how much the academic landscape has changed and how respected he is in academia. If I had come up with what I'm saying today 5 years ago, I would have been hospitalized, he explained to Ynet. He added that today, they're already talking differently. I have nothing to lose. I've received my degrees and my awards. I am respected in universities abroad, where the trend is also changing. Eshed provided more information in his newest book, The Universe Beyond the Horizon, Conversations with Professor Chaim Eshed, along with other details, such as how aliens have prevented nuclear apocalypses, there you go, and when we can jump in and visit the men in black. The book is available for 198 shekels, whatever. While it is unclear if any evidence exists that could support Eshed's claims, they did come just ahead of recently announced by Space IL, the group behind Israel's failed attempt to land the spacecraft on the moon in 2019. I actually met those guys a few years ago. Oh, what the heck just happened? Ad just popped up. Uploaded to social media with the next ready to get excited again. The announcement contained a 15-second video of the moon with text saying back to the moon, followed by the date of December 9th, 2020. It is likely that this is a follow-up to the Bereshit spacecraft, Bereshit, which crashed after engineers lost contact with it just minutes before it was due to land. However, the follow-up project titled Bereshit 2 is expected to take 3 years to be ready. That's all we get.
So, yeah, so just, you know, on the nuclear tip, right? So look what's going on. You have these things, whatever the hell they are operating in ways that don't add up to our understanding of physics, okay? And so it says in the Zohar, and I'm paraphrasing, meaning I don't know the exact wording, but it says that Mashiach comes with the armies of heaven to subdue the powers of the earth. So a lot of people would interpret that, and do interpret that, as some kind of gigantic war where 2/3 of people have to die and blah, 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 and all that shit. But look what's actually, so I put forth this. Look what's been happening. They have been, so when you have these craft flying circles around your best jets, your best jet fighters, and you have these craft coming and taking your best, most lethal weapons and just showing you how easily they can turn them on and off at will, make them into piles of junk, right? So what are they doing? They are establishing military dominance without actually killing anybody.
It's crazy. They're showing you they could do the crossover without actually playing, you know, like a basketball player. I can do the crossover, but I'm not going to play you because I'll just kill you.
Right. They're showing you that, like, look, they're trying to, I think so far, they've been under orders from God to not, because there's not very many reports of from all these reports, you're not going to find anybody that say, oh, like he fired a laser beam at my head, or he
like
blew up
Mars
my
attacks.
Right. Usually, a lot of times the Navy pilots would actually fire on these objects.
Yeah.
And then the object still wouldn't return fire.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that, so basically, if I had to MacGyver, you know, what's going on based from like what the Torah, what I've seen the Torah say, and what's actually going on in reality, and you know, when I just put 2 and 2 together, and that's what it looks like to me. Is that what's happening? I don't know.
Question though, that famous video that a lot of people said may be doctored recently, that was some kind of light or thing hovering over the Temple Mount. So what is that?
Yeah, that was probably a hoax.
That was absolutely a hoax.
Okay.
It's been proven.
Fine.
Yeah, it was proven to be a hoax by a art community project. It was made by 2 or 3 different people.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Some kind of like community.
they put it out, and they all posted differently at different times.
Yeah, different angles and this. Yeah.
That's pure Sitra Achra, man.
Yeah.
You know, like why would you? You know, anybody who's trying to conceal the reality of what's happening in the world, on the ground, the physics, the nature, you know, the biology. Anybody trying to conceal what's happening and try to layer it with shit is part of is doing the work of the Sitra Achra. I'm not saying they're doing it consciously, but they are the tools of the Sitra Achra.
Yeah.
So
I need your blessing, Frank, because I'm planning on doing an art piece coming up soon, and it's called "Looking for the Man."
The man.
Can you tell him to me? It's okay to tell him.
Yeah, tell him.
All right. So the idea is that, you know, it's like a man on the street. I walk around. I walk up to different people. I'm like, have you ever heard of the man? Do you know who the man is? And so the first person's going to be like, oh, yeah, the man's the police. And then I walk up to the next person. I go, have you ever heard of the man? Who's the man? And they go, oh, that's the government. I'm like, oh, okay. And I go to the next person. Have you ever heard of the man? And they're like, oh, that's the Illuminati. And they're like, okay. And then walking along, and as I'm walking, I see a statue of a golden man with a golden member sticking in his pants. At which point I then bow down to the golden man and pray to him, and then turn around and bow down again, and then give him a $20, and then look at the camera and say, at least I paid him now instead of later. Is that Sitra Achra to you?
Well,
I'm not even kidding. You think I'm joking? I'm totally gonna make this video. So
I mean, Paul, you had another.
I think it went over my, some of what you said went over my head. Can you please explain a little more?
well, the idea is that the man
Mhm.
is the man is somebody who's always kind of like screwing you, like you're getting screwed by the man.
Mhm.
So this guy's constantly looking for the man, and he finds him, and he finds the man to be a golden statue of some sort with a golden member. And so he gets taken by the man. And so he says, I'm happy I did that now instead of later, because it's gonna happen one way or another.
Oh, so it's kind of like
The point is, you're going to get screwed by the man at some point.
you just preempted.
So why not? Instead of waiting for it, go find the man, the statue of the man is, I feel like this is what it'll be like in the future.
Mhm.
Like you just go give some penance to the man, and by penance you get screwed.
No, it's funny. It's funny that like some of the imagery that you're using is very reminiscent of a couple of different themes that I've heard of. Like, first of all, like a man with holding a golden member. That sounds like Isis and Osiris.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And where what's his name? Seth cuts off Osiris's member and cuts him into 14 different pieces. And then the other imagery is, being, bending over and being screwed by the man, by the idol, the golden man, is very similar to Baal Peor worship, as they did in Canaan. So I mean, it just keeps going back to these same themes are just recycled over and over again. And
Yeah, but my point is do I have the Frank Zelenko thumbs up that it's not what you were saying a moment ago, where in some way it's creating, maybe opposite of what I'm really trying to create.
So if you are, if you're trying to make a commentary using
Right.
these ideas and imagery, I don't see what the problem is at all.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear.
But if you're trying, basically my point is, if you see like, I don't know why this pops into my head. You remember Seth Rich, the guy who was that Democratic.
He was murdered by Hillary. Yeah.
Well, that's what they said. I'm just saying, like he was carrying some kind of computers or some kind of damning information.
You just threw that out there. Just like
yes.
He was carrying some computers that had some kind of damaging, incriminating information about some Democrat Party operatives, and then he was apparently robbed. They shot him in the back, and the computers went missing. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say you were a witness to that, right? And there was who actually shot him? It was a guy dressed like Bozo the Clown, right? And if you start telling people that it was a dude dressed like Barney, then you're working for the Sitra Achra. That's all I'm saying. It's really literally that simple.
All right. Well, then I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
All right, good. I'm happy. I'm happy that I know that I'm waking people and not making them sleep some more. That's really the whole concept here. It's about trying to wake people up, right? It's about, listen, Frank, we got deep in this one. I don't think that like anybody who started at the beginning, if anybody was here at the beginning, is still with us, because this thing's gotten deep to the point where it's like heavy.
There's a lot of us. We have some overlapping esoteric language, which not everybody is automatically familiar with yet.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean. It's possible that there's going to be anybody interested is going to have a lot of Googling to do. Actually, they should a lot of duck going.
They should have like we were the whole time.
You know what's funny? I was just talking to guys on Twitter about the what, and they were asking me for sources, and I always had to tell them I found this, and you know where I had to go? I had to go on DuckDuckGo, because I wouldn't have found it I wouldn't found them by Googling it.
Because you won't find it on Google.
Yeah, or I will. I have to dig. I have to dig to the the 25th page. And
Right.
There.
Right.
Crazy, gentlemen.
So
yeah.
So just to kind of, can I just I twist this one off for a second?
Yeah.
Sure.
So the idea of the ministering angels, they're also connected to the Sitra Achra. Okay, and that those waters get a little bit murkier, but remember, when it all comes down to it, the whole Sitra Achra department, right? It's all about creating the ability to choose. Okay, that's what really this all comes down to. Everything that we talked about, all of it boils down to human beings keeping themselves in a position where they have the ability to choose between, to have free will, to choose between right and wrong. And sometimes people can push themselves into a situation where they're no longer in that realm. After a certain point, there are people who no longer have free will.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you've just submitted yourself too much to to the Sitra Achra, where you're just an agent. I don't know if you can pull yourself out of it. I don't know. I'm just saying that.
Like the people who are running this whole show that we're seeing before us.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like, and especially the people who fall into that category, I would say the primary are the leadership.
Yeah.
The leadership, like something happened to Netanyahu at a certain point.
Yeah.
Something happened to a lot of people at a certain point.
For sure, Bennett, you could see it in his eyes. I feel a lot of people mention that they look at Bennett and they see there's like a darkness in his eyes going on. You can't explain what's going on with him.
There's a lot of people that are at the top, though. You know, you feel like they've gone through so much trauma to get to that place.
Yeah.
You know, because it is trauma. It's human trauma that they're going through to become either well known or famous or political, this, that, or the other. I mean, you know, there's stories of Putin when he was younger in the 70s, where he was running around and he was playing guitar and he was being a hippie, you know, before he went off and started becoming this tyrannical character.
Yeah.
You know, playing Jim Morrison songs at the graveside of Jim Morrison, and playing music there. So I mean, what a change! You know, what a dramatic change as well.
Yeah, because you know, when you get to a certain level, you get closer to whatever ministering angels in charge of your neighborhood.
Charge of that thing, yeah.
And then you start to get closer to. The higher up you go in human leadership, the less free will you have.
So Frank, so here's my ultimate question. So you know how there's this whole pattern of, you can see videos of this on YouTube, how all of these leaders of Israel, these prime ministers, would go and they would meet with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they would ask him, Rebbe, what should I do in the situation? Usually it's to do with giving away land, not giving away land, peace negotiations, Arabs, whatever. And whatever he would tell them, they would say, yes, Rebbe, you're absolutely right, nod their head, go, and then they go home, get on a plane, they go home, and they do the diametrical opposite, and then we get kaka.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're saying they're controlled by these ministering angels to do, you know, this horrible thing, this stupid thing, but yet they're consulting with the Rebbe. So it's like, what is this? Like they're just
I'm not saying that it was as soon as they get, you know, to become the vice prime minister or whatever level, automatically their mind is gone.
They're not automatically, but you see that pattern, you know.
What I'm saying is that based on a decision, okay, first they made a decision. I'm going to go visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and because I want to inquire, I want to know what God wants me to do in this situation. Because I believe the Lubavitcher Rebbe has a connection,
has a mandate, like you said,
has a mandate and a connection, and to express what it is that I'm supposed to be doing as the leader of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Okay. So they would go to him, okay, and when they hear what they're supposed to do, and then when they make their own personal decision, while they still have free will, once they go against that, once they go and do the opposite, they are coerced, or they decide personally to do something, then they put themselves in that realm. Now they're stuck.
No, but they all do that. They all seem to have been done. Even Menachem Begin, they all did it. So every single one.
Correct.
You know, Sharon did it, and then he got like Pulsa de Nura curse from Kabbalists, and then he had a stroke.
So that's what I think. I think that they at some point they have a choice when they go against the clear thing, not just the heavenly thing to do, some kind of weird ritual, but usually it's the most practical thing to do. it's the most common sense thing to do at the same time. When they go against that, because they want to appease,
America,
they
Europe.
want to appease the Sitra Achra, basically. They want to appease Paris Hilton. They want to appease fucking Procter and Gamble. They want to appease Schmeiser. Okay? When they want to do that, then now they're stuck. That's when
So true.
That's when they
Also
enter that
true.
realm, and that's it. And they're done.
Mhm. Also true,
and literally appeased. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not Paris Hilton. Fucking Madonna. Remember when Madonna came to Israel? It was so humiliating. He treated her like some kind of national
Oh, who, Bibi?
treasure. Yeah, Bibi, the prime minister himself, the leader, the supposed leader, was walking around.
She's like the whore of Babylon. He's saying
I'm sorry. I switched to Russian because English is not adequate sometimes to express disgust.
He became nauseous and he wanted to puke.
Okay, so that's obviously when you see that kind of horseshit going on. Well, you know what I mean. So you see that the mind is gone now. That the free will is gone. That the person that was there is not there anymore. They're just a shell. They're just like an echo.
Yeah, Bennett is gone. I look at him. He's just mamish gone. He's not there. It's
horrible.
I feel like kind of at the same time. It's I don't know. I feel bad for the guy. You could say, oh, Bennett's horrible and this and that and the other. He's a legitimate prime minister. I feel bad for him. He was ostensibly like a Torah Jew with a kippah, and he davens, and there's like the first picture he posted how he's davening with a minion. The first minion as a prime minister.
Greg, do you understand that these guys,
mother blankers,
right? You understand? They knew since March. They knew. I know for a fact. You don't understand. I know for a fact, personally. I know, not through hearsay. I know for a fact that they knew that my brother's protocol is literally saving people's lives.
I know that.
They knew that from then.
I know that, and then they just pretend like they don't. I know.
Right. So that puts into context. That gives you a perspective of the level of evil that they are immersed in. How could they do this? How could they do this? Okay. So I'm expecting. That's why I'm expecting something that seems like supernatural intervention.
Well,
armies of heaven from the sky coming and whooping some ass.
Well, listen,
because it has to happen. Something like that has to happen. I don't know if it's
apart from what you're saying, it's already happening because they already Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair magazine. They posted the thing about Mr. Mousy, Dr. Mousy, and the NIH. They finally, and they said that this is officially MS, not anymore conspiracy, not anymore racist epithets against Chinese people. This is a fact. And now this is like, now we're going to see, the question is now, is there going to be any justice or anything done? There's like Republicans calling for his head, but it's like, okay, so they're just crazy Republicans rambling on Twitter. Okay, nobody gives a damn. And then the Republican senator asked Attorney General, do you think that Mousy committed a perjury? So the guy danced around, little dance. Who knows? But
I'm not talking about these people, getting justice. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about saving the people.
For sure. But it starts with them getting justice, because then we can stop the bleeding. At least, we can stop this process.
I know, but there's so many people that already got this poison inside of them. That in order for them to be saved, it's going to have to be a supernatural intervention. That's what I'm waiting for. Gozer the Gozerian and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, whatever. I don't care what it looks like. Just let it come. And
every time you say Gozer Gozerian, I looked it up.
You know what I'm saying? I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. People, there's going to be anti-Semites who are going to have a field day with that. So basically, he wants Gozer to come. The Destructor. so basically, what I'm trying to say is that I don't care if it's hot air balloons. I don't care if it's freaking, roses in the sky. I don't know. I don't care. I just want some kind of. I want the people to survive. This. Okay, whatever. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care. But here's another thing. I want it to be really something, not something that looks like anything conventional. I want it to be like, I love the movie Ghostbusters so much. I love it. I'm going to keep going back and using it because, all right. So if you recall, Paul, you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen Ghostbusters. Like, yeah, of course. I can see by your face. You're like, what are you talking to, bro? Okay.
I don't know.
I've seen Ghostbusters. What am I retarded? Anyway, so
I am a Ghostbuster.
right, exactly. So basically, when that whole thing happened, when all the ghosts escaped from the containment unit and they went, they were running amok all over
The whole like flying through the sky thing and the colors.
Yeah, the colors and all that, the crazy zombies driving the taxis, crashing into hot dog carts, right? And then you have the Keymaster, and then on top of that building, the whole New York sees like that whole show where Gozer comes down.
For sure.
And then 100-foot Marshmallow Man. If that really happened, if something like that happened, the world is different forever. You can never go back to your stupid life anymore.
Well, you can't just go back to like, oh, let's go back to normal.
Yeah, you're not going back to normal.
There ain't no normal after the State Park Marshmallow Man just came through the street. Like, ain't no normal after that. Let's just go to the play.
You're not going to that.
We can go see a new musical. Musicals are open now on Broadway again.
That's it. You're canceling your trip to Reno for the insurance convention. You're getting out of your cubicle. You're not going to do.
Right.
You're going to stop watching Netflix. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
That's what has to happen. That's what I want. As soon as you see some crazy shit, I can't wait to see a UFO. When I say UFO, you know what I mean. I don't mean specifically UFO. I mean something like that.
No.
Something that breaks our understanding of conventional reality, which is.
But look, even when it happened in where was it? Was it Nevada or Arizona in the 90s? When there was like 13, I think it was 96, and there were the Phoenix. It was Phoenix, Arizona.
The Phoenix Lights.
Sure. The Phoenix Lights.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! How could you say that? That's not what it was. There was no way that there was like people are like it was drones. Ain't want no drones.
You can't, by the way, the governor,
massive. This is a massive. And then the governor makes fun of it and dresses up. And
but
then he did a documentary recently where he talked about why he did that.
Absolutely, but he in that documentary, what did he say? Tell him. He said he saw it like everybody else, and then he flew A-10 Warhogs in the Air Force. He was a fighter pilot. The guy understood what he was looking at. Fife Simon. His name is Fife Simon.
He wasn't silly. He knew, but he said at the documentary that he did recently, like he's like, we knew what the court of public opinion was, but we had no choice but to make fun of it, because otherwise the other answer was, yeah, aliens are real and people are going to go crazy.
Right.
So what else were we to do but to make fun of the situation?
So what happened? So what happened with the Phoenix Lights? They just showed up for a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, relatively, right? They didn't stick around. They didn't just stay there to where we're like, okay, now what you're gonna do, motherfuckers? You're gonna go back to your daily life and just stay there, hover over Phoenix. You know what I mean? That's not what it did. It kind of introduced the idea, but once it's there and it's not going anywhere, and people are like, they're not gonna be able to go back to watching Netflix.
What about the crop circles with the DNA and then the response DNA response?
Yeah, these things.
Seen that, right, Frank?
I see. Those things piss me off because they're real, but they leave just enough plausible deniability to let the regular, like the average person, go, there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean,
it's always like that.
Yeah, the person who takes it at first glance, but when you read into what was returned and the mathematical calculation that came back and how it's basically a return copy of what we wrote, but with their DNA and their form of transmission and their type of mathematics, it's like what?
It was incredible, but
that's really some other worldly stuff right there. Like that's some other world stuff.
But you said it. At first glance, that's what most people do. They give one glance.
Yeah.
Understand? That's the problem. They're headline readers.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's why we're in this mess.
Nobody reads. Nobody reads. I just realized that this morning, Frank. You know what I was arguing, remember, with that guy who ended up blocking me, and it's a whole. You know, I posted what you wrote. It's a whole thing, and all he saw was Sitra Achra in the beginning, and he latched onto that, and he started making fun of that, and I'm just like, did you read? I didn't ask him. I was just wondering, did this guy read anything else of the philosophical concept of what Frank is trying to convey? And then he latched onto that, and then he went into, you know, obviously the what, and bashing that, and bashing anybody who's against that, and you know, he's a doctor. Suppose he is a doctor.
Look, it's likely that he's recommended that he's an institutional drone that has followed the directives, this top-down directives, and has told people to go get the vaccine. He's probably told many people. And now when you're threatening that and you're telling him that's wrong and that he may have sent people to their death or to horrible.
Yeah, he called your brother. If anything, he called your brother because he linked to some study about the HCQ, and he called your brother that he literally said your brother has blood on his hands. I'm like,
I really hope that he quoted the Lancet article.
It wasn't Lancet. It was like he's like, no, it wasn't Lancet. It wasn't Lancet. It was no. First he said that your brother claimed that there was a study, you know, like when there wasn't one. I mean, there wasn't a real study actually, and your brother even said that. And then he posted. I'll tell you exactly what he posted. He posted a link just for one of these. It's a scientific study, like either what is it? SciServe, one of those MedServe, SciServe, whatever. PubMed, NCBI, and NIH. See, it says hydroxy HCQ and sudden cardiac death. Implications for clinical practice in patients with rheumatic diseases. It's a study from January 1st, 2021. So like they decided to make a study, like, it's a bunch of guys in Pakistan: Hussein Ahmed Raza, Javeria Tariq, Vikas Agarwal, and Latika Gupta, either Pakistan or India. You know, so they decided, here. Like, basically, he was like saying that you have blood, your brother has blood on his hands. I'm asking, like, can you point me to actual people that like have taken this thing and have died? Do you know them personally? Otherwise, you're just saying lashon hara and conjecture. Mm-hmm. On the converse side, there we know of people who have taken the and have died. You know, it's not that many as a percentage of the population, but it's enough. You know,
I would wager that
I had a friend of mine, 44 years old. I think I told you about this, and 3 days later had died of blood clots.
Yeah.
And was a healthy girl, 40-something years old. I was like, why are you doing it? And she's like, oh, I get it for work or I'm going to get fired. I was like, are you kidding me?
Until about 2 weeks ago. No, I guess already more. I mean, 3 weeks now. When my brother was still doing consultations. He hasn't been doing that for the last couple of weeks already, month maybe. But before that, I would get 150 phone calls a day. And I'm not exaggerating. And at least 30 and almost as much as 40 would be vaccine victims or family members of vaccine
victims, right?
Vaccine victims who have passed away. And I told Greg, I told Greg the ones, like the number was so overwhelming, and I just kept hearing the same thing over and over again. And that it just became, I'm not going to say numb to it, but some part of my brain shut down. I can't deal with it. And but I remember the initial ones. I told you, Greg has heard this a lot already. Where there's a young lady, a professor from the West Coast, kind of engineering professor. They coerced her. She's in her 30s and athletic, no comorbidities. They coerced her to get the vaccine, and then she had to resign 2 weeks later anyway, because she could not. She, among many other issues she was dealing with, she could no longer think. She was a Mensa member, like high IQ,
the opposite of IQ or higher or something like that.
And she was having all sorts of issues with muscles, and it was horrible. But she couldn't think. And when I first heard that, I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, it sounded ridiculous to me. I didn't understand it at first, and then I realized as I was talking to her and getting her information, she couldn't string a sentence together. Wow. And I was like, "What is this? What is she going to do now?" And then, this guy, I talked to this guy from Buffalo, like this is like 10 months ago. And so he was saying how he had two cousins or uncles, whatever, but they were in his age group. They were just a couple of years older than him, late 40s. And they were brothers, two brothers. And no, they came from like a George Burns family, like no sickness whatsoever, live 1,000 years, Babe Ruth, a bunch of hookers every night, and they'll still be fine. You know what I mean? So, that's you know what I mean? Like Babe Ruth and Elvis, they were like Elvis, Babe Ruth, and George Burns wrapped into one. So basically, so that's what these guys were. And they were athletic guys, and they did all sorts of crazy stuff. And one brother went to get the vaccine, dead 3 days later from some kind of surprising heart condition, which they didn't know. It was total. He was a ticking time bomb, apparently.
Yeah, sure.
Going to the doctor. Okay, it would have happened, and regardless. Okay, 2 weeks later, the second brother, I can't remember if he was the older one or the younger one, but they were 2 years apart. Went to get the vaccine at a different hospital in Buffalo, dead 3 days later from a different heart problem. He was a ticking time bomb, nothing to do with the vaccine.
They're both ticking time bombs simultaneously. It's like ICBMs.
Okay, and I just nonstop hearing the shit, and so that's just wanted to say that's my experience with it.
Well, I was gonna post this on YouTube, but now we just made this. What is it? Officially medical misinformation. So
The vaccine.
Yeah.
Anything
you said is already. That's it. You've triggered. I'm surprised you didn't trigger the Facebook algorithm.
No, that's right. I'm sure Facebook's about to break down right now on us.
Or the medical.
I don't know if I do
the water.
this.
The water.
I don't know if I. Wait, I don't know if I've told you this, Feet, but Greg, but my Facebook page is a breeding ground for Facebook. It's. I know way too many people.
Mm-hmm.
I get canceled. I post the most crazy. I posted the video of I had to do today, where I'm wearing the blackface and I have the swastika on my forehead, and I did that whole video. Like nobody did nothing. Do I get heated? No. Do I get canceled? Do I get 30 days in jail? No. What is it?
I don't know, but I was saying to Frank that I feel like there's some weird, what's called shmira, like despite the fact that the page that we're talking on right now has been shadow banned, meaning like I have 35,000 fans, and only right now, I mean, Baruch Hashem, like there's like 4 people watching right now as far as I can see.
Right. I know, it's
but
crazy.
But this page is still there. It hasn't been removed. They said that I'm a threat of being removed already for like a year and a half. I don't even know why, but it hasn't been. It's still there. It's up.
No, what they do is they just put in the back of the algorithm.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's flagged.
Yeah.
And then they just put you way in the back. Look, how many times I put in this video while talking. I've gone back to my page and I've even tagged friends in it. 20 friends at a time.
Yeah.
And we have had like maybe 4 or 5 people in here. We're in here deeply that were even commenting. So what does that tell you?
I don't know.
It's on my Facebook page.
Yeah, it gets
it's on my profile.
It gets killed. It gets killed. Like, dude, listen, anytime I post anything like I posted official documents, one document from the and I told this to Frank about it was like a fictional pandemic that they wrote about in 2017 in Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
This is an official document from Johns Hopkins. I posted that.
Yep.
And I got no, people like don't, it's almost as if they don't see it. I posted a thing, the Harvard study about bears, the Harvard Pilgrim study. Again, it's an official document from like, these like official sources, not reputable organizations. Nothing. You would think that it would be like some kind of monumental thing, but nothing. And then I post like nonsense, and then people are like,
and that's why, Greg. What's my explanation? What could be the only explanation?
Ministering angels.
Exactly. There's no.
So, yeah. I want to talk about something that's also, speaking of inexplicable. When we were in Florida, Frank, you read off to me a list. Speaking of the Rebbe, I mentioned the Rebbe. You read off a list to me of things that like Trump did that on
I want to hear this.
On auspicious Chabad holidays. Can you?
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Can you read this list to us, and can you read the significance of the holiday and line it up with what Trump did? Like, you have this whole thing.
I'll do my best, but you know who you have to have on in order to really understand this.
Rabbi Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get him on, that's Shem. But so yeah, so I want you to kind of like intro it and read it and see what we can make of it.
Yeah, hold on a second. Now, as far as I understand, this is an incomplete list, but it's enough to get the point across.
Yeah. Just so you know, guys, we've been going. We're at 2 hours.
3.5 hours, right?
2 hours and 52 minutes, and
Yeah,
I think the longest Joe Rogan thing I've seen was like 3.5 or maybe 4 hours.
3.5.
Musk was smoking weed on it.
Yeah.
Wait, you mentioned Musk. I want what's his name? Norm Macdonald. He said he was having an interview with I think it was Larry King, and they were talking about Elon Musk and his plan to send people to Mars, right? He goes, Elon Musk, genius, pioneer, or the most creative serial killer ever.
Oh my God. Probably both, as we've seen from others.
Probably both. Probably both.
The other thing,
he's in for the long game.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald, he'd say stuff like this. He goes, "Let me get your opinion on the type of man I'm about to mention." He goes, "Martin Luther King, Stalin."
What the hell?
He just randomly put these two idiots together. It's crazy. No, I love that guy so much. I keep channeling him because he passed away.
You defer to two entities that are mysteriously maybe linked: Ministering Angels and Norm Macdonald. Do you ever think that maybe they're the same thing?
I wouldn't put it past him because he was a force of nature.
I know.
Okay.
He transcended his realm.
He was amazing. He's the only one who could do what he did. Yeah. Anyway, so here we go. Here we go. This is just to explain what this means to me. When I was trying to figure out what was going on in the world, right? Not that I ever succeeded, but it felt amazing to have it felt like some very, very rare insight. So that of the activities of Mashiach. Now you're allowed to believe whoever you want is Mashiach. I believe it's the Rebbe. I'm not forcing anybody to believe that, but nevertheless, just so you know who you're talking to, where this is coming from. So, in case you couldn't guess, anyway. Okay, so first on the list, the 19th of Kislev in the year 5777. Okay, which is actually December 19th, 2016, President Trump was voted by the electors, finally, after some crazy, remember they were trying to mess with the electors, so finally, on December 19th, which overlaps with Yutes Kislev, President Trump is voted to be the 45th president of the US. Okay, so Yutes Kislev, as we know, is it's called the Rosh Hashanah of Hasidus. Okay, it's the preeminent Hasidic or especially Lubavitch holiday. Okay. All right. And then the next event, preeminent Hasidic or especially. Hold on a second. My uncle's calling me. Call him back. Okay. The next event is. Can
you tell us a little bit more about these holidays, or you want to read the list first and then go over?
I think I want to get through the list because some of the holidays they overlap. Okay. We'll run into them again in the following year.
Okay.
So then you have Yud Aleph Nisan. That is the 11th of the month, Jewish month of Nisan in the year 5777, which is April 6, 2017. Okay. And it was actually already. At this time when this happened, it was already the 11th of Nisan in Israel. So Trump, and this is, by the way, it's the Lubavitcher Rebbe's birthday. That's the significance of this date. Okay.
Frank, speaking about it, while you do that, just don't mind me. I didn't put on tefillin yet, so I'm just gonna put on tefillin. That reminded me. But anyway, go on.
Put on tefillin, you fryak. I got it.
Call me a goy.
Who called you a goy?
No, like a shegitz. I don't know. I didn't put on tefillin yet. It's already like 5:20. And
No, I like the word fryok. It's just a funny word to me.
oh, fry out. That's just a fryer.
No, fryok.
Oh, fry
Fryok.
out. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Some kind of Yiddish, like, like.
Oh yeah. I fried out. Yeah.
Hang on.
Huh.
Please, I apologize. Just bear with me for a second. The person panicking right now, trying to get information on how to. Hold on. You know what I'm talking about, Greg.
Yeah.
Give me one second.
Protocol. We're trying to get the protocol.
So,
It's funny how we say protocol. Automatically, you think of protocols of Zion.
oh, don't start with that shit. Okay, so okay, so the Russian. Okay, I'm done. Sorry about that. Okay, so Yud Aleph Nisan. By the way, just the first one that we talked about, the 19th of Kislev, that's when the Alter Rebbe was released from prison.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the holiday, but it's not everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yud Aleph Nisan is the Lubavitcher Rebbe's birthday. Okay. Trump strikes Syria's Assad. He strikes Assad's forces with his first large-scale military strike, and it had to do with the red line. Remember that red line? Obama talked about a red line with Assad, saying if you do this, then we're going to come in and we're going to do something about it. Assad crossed the red line several times. Nothing ever happened. Right? So Trump, he was testing Trump, and Trump reacted as promised. And if you cross the red line, we're going to attack you. And he did it. He actually did it, and it happened to overlap with Lubavitcher Rebbe's birthday. Like stop gassing people. Anyway, so the 19th. Okay, so the following year, again, you test Kislev, 19th of Kislev in 5778, which is December 6th, 2017. It's officially announced to the whole world that the United States recognizes Yerushalayim as the capital of Israel. Okay. Now, the next one is not a Chabad holiday. It's a universal Jewish holiday. It's the 8th night of Hanukkah, 5778, on December 20th, 2017. Trump basically releases Shalom Mordechai Rubashkin from prison, from his wrongful imprisonment. Okay, and so you might say, well, that's not a Chabad holiday, but who are we talking about here? The most famous Lubavitcher in the world, arguably, right? At the time, Rubashkin. Okay. And the whole, and by the way, the celebration.
It's pretty intense, actually. That's a little way past like coincidence,
Well, we're gonna keep going, but just to, it wasn't, even though Rubashkin was, he was a Lubavitcher, but the whole religious world was like, what it reminded me? You remember the end of Star Wars? When they blew up the Death Star, and you had like everybody like dancing, with the Ewoks and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
All over the galaxy. That's what it reminded me
Dude,
of.
I was in Israel at that time, and I was watching all the YouTube clips of where he was in different places in New York, and I thought he was doing, Kitzat HaDerech. I thought he was like transporting himself to like Borough Park and Monsey and Passaic, and my friend came to 770 that day, and he's like, I saw everybody there, not just Lubavitcher people, everybody, and I haven't seen that ever.
It was an amazing rallying person to rally around. Hey, Paul, you ever heard of the term Kitzat HaDerech? It's like a wormhole, or it's like a contraction of the pathway. So basically,
I've not heard of that.
So it's like, you'd have like, rabbis, Kabbalists, and even people from the Tanakh. When Kitzat HaDerech, they were able to travel great distances in very short periods of time.
It's like Star Trek, transporting.
Or like they're going into hyperspace. I don't know.
Yep.
But basically, and they use that term Kitzat HaDerech in Dune.
In Dune, yeah. My sister just wrote that to me today. Right before this, she told me that.
Okay, great. Moving on. Okay, so Rubashkin is commuted. Okay, fine. Now on the 28th day of the month of Sivan, and they call that in Hebrew, every letter is also a number, so it's Chaf Het Sivan, which is it also happens to spell the word koach, which is spelled chav het, and that means the power of the month of Sivan. They call this in the year 5778. But what's the holiday? It's celebrating that's the day when the Lubavitcher Rebbe came to America, and on that day he declared that it was the day that we begin fixing the sparks. We begin rectifying or elevating the sparks that had fallen the furthest, because everything is about elevating the sparks from the world of chaos, the previous universes. Okay, you're gonna have to look up a concept called the Shvirat HaKelim, the shattering of the vessels, stuff that happened before Bereshis. But so that's what he said. He said that basically, actually, what he said was like this: this is the day the Rebbe came to America, which he declared it as the day that we begin fixing the lowest elements in the world. Okay, and this was on and this overlapped with June 11th, 2018. That's not when the Rebbe came, but that's the anniversary of when the Rebbe came to America. And so what happened on this day? This is the first historical meeting of a US president with the world's foremost dictator of the country, literally the most horrible, hellish country on earth, North Korea.
You mean the one that sings about being Ronry, or his father sang about that, being Ronry? Yeah.
Who was it?
His father sang about being Ronry. I am so Ronry.
I am so Ronry.
Ronry. Why is everybody so effing stupid? Why can't
Remember,
you be more intelligent like me?
Did you ever see the movie The Onion? It was like the Onion movie or something like that.
I didn't see that. They made a movie.
There was they were doing some kind of skit where they were making fun. They were doing something really stereotypical about black dudes. And then the next scene, you had like this guy, this black dude, like this lawyer, right? He's wearing like a bow tie. He's like, really serious. He's part of one of these groups that wants to, that's going to cancel you. Right?
Yeah.
So he forced the movie studio to. The next scene, there you see like this nice looking kind of like what's his name, Wayne Brady like black dude walking around. He's going to the library. He's wearing like a bow tie, right? So to kind of make up for the other thing. And then, but during the scene when the guy was complaining, right, when the lawyer came to complain, there was also somebody from the Asian American delegation, right? And then and the guy, the lawyer, was speaking very eloquently, and he was saying, how do you feel about such stereotypical? And then the Asian guy is Gede Watanabe, that actor?
Yeah.
So he's like, me no Reiki.
It's such a random moment.
Yeah, I love that guy so much. Remember that movie UHF with Weird Al Yankovic?
Oh God, it was so good. It was so ahead of its time.
Right, that movie. Remember, he was Gede Watanabe. He was the karate teacher who lived above their apartment. Weird Al Yankovic's apartment, and he would you'd see like karate students flying out the window, right? And then Gede Watanabe would come out. He goes, "He's so stupid."
What the hell did I just start? I just said about the throne reading.
No, I love it. I'm sorry. Okay, so getting back. All right, enough. Back to. Let's get serious. Okay. Okay. So Trump, on the anniversary of the day when the Lubavitcher Rebbe came to America and said it is now time that we will begin elevating the lowest elements of the world. So on the anniversary of that day, the president of the United States at that time, Donald Trump, probably also now, whatever, he went to speak to the lowest dictator of the lowest country on earth. Not because Korea is low, but because they've done that to that country and to those people. Okay, it's a horrible place. It's literally, if you look at it from the space station, right? You look down on North Korea, you'll see South Korea lit up, and you'll see pure darkness in North Korea. You see this really, really defined line. It's absolutely mind-boggling. I recommend looking it up. It's just absolutely astounding. But anyway, so that's what happened on that day, on the anniversary of the day when the Rebbe came.
That's crazy. How much? So the question is, were these done and they were banned? Or do you think this was just coincidence and it's the universe trying to say, wee wee, here's the beeps and the ding dings, everybody, you need to pay attention.
After I finish reading the list, I'll tell you what I actually think.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. So next we have a general holiday, which is obviously related to the redemption, Purim, in the year 5779, which is March 21st. Okay, so not just the Lubavitch, but President Trump tweets that it's time to recognize the Golan Heights as part of officially as part of Eretz Yisrael, as part of Israel. Okay. Again, the following Rebbe's birthday on the 11th of the month of Nisan, Yud Aleph Nisan, in the year 5779. The Rebbe's birthday. So it's April 16th, 2019. Notre Dame goes up in flames. This is the church which. So basically, do you guys know what Notre Dame symbolizes?
Yes.
Notre Dame. I want to make sure I get this right. So they're Christians or Catholics. They have they practice replacement theology, right? Meaning like that God abandoned the Jewish people, and the Christians were the new Israel, basically. Like he severed his bond, his contract with the Jewish people, and started a new covenant with the Christians. Okay, so just one second. I just want to make sure I'm say something that's not right. So Notre Dame de Paris, referred to simply as Notre Dame, is a medieval Catholic cathedral. 1 second. Are you kidding me? They're not letting me look at Wikipedia. Nuts. So I wanted to see how the name plays into it, but basically, I think it's like the Church of the Lady, and the Lady represents. They have this on the cathedral. They have a relief or like a statue that's depicting. There's two women in the statue. You have one that's kind of like downcast on the ground. She's looking like disheveled and not regal. She's like she's been discarded. So that's the Jews. And then you have this other lady standing, I think to her right, looking epic, with her arms in the air, looking all like she just went to the
strong and
great.
Right, sure.
Right? That's Christianity. So that's the theme of the whole cathedral, right? That's what it means. So it went up in flames on the Rebbe's birthday. Now I'm not saying somebody went, oh, it's the Rebbe's birthday, let's go burn the cathedral. God forbid. That's not what happened. Okay, but it's a little bit of a strange coincidence. As in not a coincidence. Okay. Anyway, so
right. Could never be. I mean, at this point, right? There's no way.
So shall we continue? Okay. Now, this one I need to speak to the rabbi about. I'm not entirely sure how it's connected. Greg had an interesting interpretation of this. But okay, so it was the 27th of the month of Tishrei, in the year 5780, which is October 27th, 2019. So it was the orders were given. It was the Navy SEALs. They went to get al-Baghdadi, right? He ended up killing himself. They got him, right? And so on the day, during this time, we're reading a parsha of the Torah, which is the first parsha of the Torah, Bereshis. Okay? Obviously, it has something to do with new beginnings. But I need the rabbi, this one particular one, I don't recall how he explained it. So I'm gonna, if Greg has him on the show, he'll be able to shed light on that one. Okay? But there's much more. So let's just continue from there. Okay, so on the 20th of Cheshvan, in the year 5780, the 20th of Cheshvan, we're still in Cheshvan, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I get a little lost. But we're in the month on the 20th of Cheshvan. This is the birthday of the fifth Chabad Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab. So he was known for a lot of things, but he fought for the establishment of a yeshiva and settlements, towns in the city of Hebron, right, which is considered, quote unquote, a territory, one of the territories, right?
Right.
Okay, so on November 18th, which overlapped with the 20th of Cheshvan, 5780, Mike Pompeo, he announced a historic reversal of U.S. policy, saying that the Israeli, quote unquote, settlements are not illegal, which of course includes Hebron. Okay, Hebron probably the primary quote unquote settlement, because it was the initial capital of King David's monarchy. All of our patriarchs are buried there, and it's literally the first true Jewish city. It's like the primary, way before Jerusalem. And so, the fact that it's related to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who put so much work into Hebron, is not a surprise. Okay, continuing on. So we have the 13th day of Kislev, which is a very recent Chabad holiday, but it's big. Okay, they call it Didan Natsach, a day of victory, where it was decided that in the year 5746, was that 86, right? That's 86. That the Rebbe, I'm not sure what day was that. Whatever. That the Rebbe doesn't need to testify in this court case that was going on.
Yeah.
So one of the Rebbe's cousins, or one of his relatives, claimed that he wanted to that he owned, or he had the rights to hold all of these archived books.
Yeah.
That are the treasures of Lubavitch, all the writings of the Rebbeim and stuff like that. The relative wasn't even a religious guy.
Yeah, he
He
wasn't.
just wanted them for whatever reason. It's not clear to me. And so they went to court to fight this. And they were wondering whether or not the Rebbe was going to have to testify in this case, which is a huge problem. And it's like most people are like, well, what's the big deal? The problem is that a king is not allowed to testify according to Jewish law. So if he is forced to testify, that would be like a sign from heaven that the Rebbe is not a king.
It's interesting. Can I interject for 1 second? It's interesting you say that, because now we see now I understand why this whole thing of with Bibi's legal issues, and they're talking about how a prime minister is not allowed to be indicted. Prime minister, the only ones who can be indicted, everybody can be indicted except for the prime minister. Or no, if he's indicted, he still can be the prime minister. He can sit as the prime minister. And even so, there's going to be people, testifying against him. I guess, something like he's basically absolved of, he has to go to court, but I don't think he even has to testify. It's interesting, the whole thing. But so now there's a guy in another, Gideon Sar, he's trying to change that law, that even a sitting prime minister who was indicted previously cannot run again. Like right now, for example, Bibi's not the prime minister anymore. He wants to make it so Bibi can't run again.
Right.
Even if it was indicted as prime minister. So it's I don't know if it's related. It's interesting that you say that now. I realized why they have that.
Well, I mean, you think the modern Israeli law reflects halacha?
It doesn't reflect halacha, but there's shades. There's it's a mix of there's Jewish thing. We have 120 Knesset members. Where the heck does that come from?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
We have shade. It's like a mix of British common law, some Ottoman stuff, some even Roman stuff, and some Jewish kind of ornament. It's like an ornament, Jewish ornament.
Yeah, just the covering. It's like a bagel on top of a.
For sure. Anyway.
So basically, okay. So on that day, on the 13th of Kislev, which is they call it Lubavitchers call it Didan Natsach, the day it was decided that the Rebbe doesn't need to testify in the Sfarim, in the book trial, because Hasidism explained because in halacha, a king doesn't testify. So that overlapped the anniversary of that joyous day. It was December 11th, 2019. That's when they celebrated it. And on that day, Trump signs an executive order to combat a very specific type of anti-Semitism. Very interesting. It's a type of it's this notion that's being pushed around in institutions, colleges, that the Jewish people are not actually a people. It's just a religion, but they're not a people. Therefore, they're not real ethnicity, and therefore they don't actually have a legit connection to a specific land. Okay, so Trump signed some kind of law which fights that. I'm not exactly sure, but it fights that notion in some way, or I'm not sure what exactly the practical actions that can be taken against institutions that spout that kind of thing. But this law,
they're funding them because they get a lot of stuff from the government.
Right, because if
you remove federal grants, federal funding. So
I think everybody should be removed from federal grants, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah. So basically, the point is that it was related to that idea, where whatever the outcome is, it was a public message saying that the Trump administration, is fighting that idea, or we don't agree with that idea, and making it really public that we believe the Jewish people are a real people and they are connected to a land, obviously. Okay, what's the connection with this Lubavitch holiday? The connection is this: if the Rebbe is a king, then the king needs a people. You understand that basically it's sort of like by not putting him in a position where he has to be put into a position where he behaves not like a king, right? By testifying, right? So that would be in a way like heaven saying, no, it's not, you're not the king. You're not the one who is the potential leader of the people in this generation. Okay. So, but a king needs a people, right? So if you have these academic institutions all over the world, actually, not just in the United States, but all over the world, spouting that the Jews aren't real, we're fake people, we're a bunch of Khazars or whatever nonsense they're saying, right? We have no right to the land of Israel and this and that, and that's what all the colleges are doing that, like literally all over the Western world. Okay, not to mention all over the Arab world. Okay, so the Trump, the president or the administration said no, that the Jews are a real people, and it overlaps with the holiday where Lubavitchers at least celebrate that no, we have a real king, a real people, a real king. Anyway, so moving on. I think we're almost done. Okay, so the next one is on the 14th of Kislev in the year 5780. It's the anniversary of the Rebbe and Rebbitzin's wedding. That's when they got married. Okay, so on this day, which is a very important holiday for Lubavitchers, because if you recall, all of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, there's 7 of them, right? All of them were like father, son, father, son, father, son. But the Rebbe broke from that, where the Rebbe was the son-in-law. He was also a nephew, like, the same family, but he happened to be the son-in-law. So it's like he married the princess. He took the crown by marrying the princess, which is a very Kabbalistic idea in general. Okay, can you guys hang on for 1 second? Let me. My uncle's freaking out. Let me just hold on. I'll tell him. Uncle.
I'm actually going to have to start leaving as well.
Oh, okay. You're leaving now, or you?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying it's going to have to happen soon because it's been quite some time that we've been going. I have to do some stuff around the house.
I hear that. It's all good.
Yeah, just life.
So what do you?
I'm back. I'll hurry up. Okay, so so this is the wedding anniversary of the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin. Okay, now what happened on this day in December? So it's December 12th, 2019. Okay, which is the 14th day of Kislev in that year. So Boris Johnson leads his Conservative Party to a stunning victory, right? 80 seats in the miracle year 5780. Okay, so it's not so much that Boris Johnson won; it's so much that Jeremy Corbyn lost. That's the main, because that could have had like some pretty major repercussions. So that was a kind of an important day specifically for Israel in general. to the Jewish people because he was a very big friend of all the Arab terrorists, murderers. Okay, so moving on. So again, on the 5th of Tavis in 5780, again, Didan Natsach, okay, which is the day when the Rebbe didn't have to testify.
Yeah.
So we've already established a precedent in connection. So in a surprise, stunning airstrike, the U.S. killed the top Iranian military commander of the Quds Brigade, right? Salamani, correct? And his buddy Abu Mahdi. Okay, so essentially he killed the leader of Iran because that's the guy who really ran Iran. And he was in charge of all major decisions and all of the terrorists that they funded, and all of the things that they personally did with their. It's crazy. You just wipe the guy out.
Yeah,
incredible. I consider it a major miracle. On the 24th of Tavis, this is the Alter Rebbe's Yort site. Okay, it's considered kind of like when a tzaddik goes back to the world of souls, it's considered a great loss in a certain extent because you don't have access to him, you can't talk to him, you can't see him, can't sit with him, even though his influence stays, but you can't see him. So on that day, it was the 21st of January, 2020. So this is the first day of President Trump's trial, Russiagate. Yeah. Russia. So this is the first day of that kangaroo court trial. Ridiculous. Okay, and here's the last one on the list at least. It's the 10th of Shvat. This is the yurt site of the Rebbe Rayaz, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe. So this is, and also it happens to be the day that the Rebbe assumed leadership. Okay? And on this day, President Trump is acquitted of all charges. So Greg, if you're telling me that Trump had some kind of Jewish advisor telling him on what auspicious days to do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't plan to be acquitted that day.
Right, then the entire world would have to have the same advisor.
The same plans, yeah.
So that's a partial list, but that's 14 different events.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
So one of them.
So what is your belief there in the end, Frank? What's your belief on? Do you think it's all meant to be?
So
do you think it's a planned? I'll
tell you. So in Midrashic teachings, which is coded fables, coded legends, the rabbis they're explaining that Mashiach acts like a gazelle, like a tzvi, actually, right? Interesting.
I'm not Mashiach, everybody. I'm not. In case you thought I was.
Or like a dolphin, like a dolphin, kind of like he jumps out of the water, right, and then goes underneath. And then like a gazelle, like when you see it leaps out of the tall grass, so you see it like periodically, right? But it goes underneath, like it jumps out of the grass, it goes back underneath. So this is the way Mashiach behaves. Yep. So basically, it is my belief, okay, that the Rebbe was using Trump as a tool.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, it's almost like metaphorically speaking, like the Rebbe took a finger, right, like his index finger, and kind of put it into Trump's head, and then he was just walking around. Trump was walking around like a finger puppet.
So whenever
Trump is more than a finger puppet. Trump is more than a finger puppet. I'm just giving, every metaphor that I make is obviously imperfect, but so I think for some period of time during Trump's presidency, the Rebbe or Mashiach put his finger or used him, guided Trump in some of the very, very important decisions. And anybody who kind of had the eyes to see it, anybody who's familiar a little bit with Jewish calendar, with the Chabad calendar, is like, whoa, like something's going on here. Like the Rebbe's saying, what's up? Basically, so it felt like this incredible time. And then this darkness just comes now. and it's like back to the, it's like the dolphin diving back into underneath the water. I don't know when it's going to emerge again. So that's basically my view.
I wanted to say something to that, but I completely forgot.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just don't, like, I'm asking for something a little bit deeper.
What's your question?
Like, I think I said the question was, do you think that this was, so I guess maybe you did answer it. You're saying that you do believe that there is some connection, that this is esoteric, that there's more to it than just what it is.
You mentioned this. Did you mention this? I was gonna say that when you told me that when Trump was, so to speak, removed, when he had, when he, I guess, quote unquote, lost, that the Rebbe's kind of power went away from the world. Not power, but like.
No, I didn't say that. I never really thought that, but I think that it just kind of like, it pissed me off because it's like, why do you, it's like, I'll give you the best metaphor I can think of. Okay.
Yeah.
When I was in what do they call it? Like Детский сад. How do you say that? In
Kindergarten.
In kindergarten, but before that.
Oh, like pre-K.
Like, yeah, like I went right. Like I went to a little like a Russian pre-K on Coney Island Avenue.
That's
right?
funny.
And I was playing in the back. I was like 5, and I was playing in the sandbox. And my grandma came to visit me. There's a way to visit, like you can come from the other block, and you can walk between the 2 houses, and then you can see the backyard where the kids are playing. And my grandma was like, she's like waving to me, and I was like, grandma. I thought I was gonna go home, right? I thought she was gonna take me home. And then when I realized, she's like, no, I can't. Okay, I'll see you later. I'm like, no. And I'm basically bawling, right? Because my grandma has abandoned me, okay? Yeah. As it seemed to me, my 5-year-old head, okay? And it was rough. I still remember that to this day. I'm like, why'd you show up? Why did you even say hi to me?
Yeah.
Just to go away again? I hate that.
Point.
But obviously, I suppose that's somewhat of a selfish viewpoint.
You just reminded me of a relationship I was in. I mean, whatever, my broken thing, whatever. Anyway, would be wedding.
I could see how that could be similar.
Yeah. Anyway.
So that's what, but I was thinking like, all right, we're finally moving towards, the end goal, and now another, like another detour, as it seems, back into the darkness, and it sucks. And I'd like to emerge from the darkness very, very soon again.
But I guess Rabbi Kessin mentioned, I asked him about this. I actually asked him Dafka about it, and I told you what his answer was. He said that there has to be a din exacted, before Mashiach comes. There has to be a din.
I know, but how long? Like this din, man?
No, this like din. This is like a din. This is a very short but very intense period.
How short? I want it to be short, man.
It'll be short. It'll be pretty short. You could see it today.
It's gonna get much worse, boys.
What do you say? Well, your internet.
I think it's going to get much worse, in my own opinion.
It's like Obama said, it's going to get much worse than before it gets better.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to get worse.
Okay.
I mean, look what's coming out, right? Like.
Yeah, no, the MS is coming out. Like I told you about the guy that was like blogger guy. He wrote a whole thing about how MS has to come out. What is it? This is the Shemitah year. So all the MS has to come out the 7 times the amount of MS than there was sheker in the past 6 years. So it has to all come out at once. What do you think?
I think so. You gotta leave some space in your mind for that to be a possibility, because that can change the reality of it. If you're, you know what I mean? Like, there is something of Trachtut und Seintut, right? Like,
think good will be good.
Think good and it is good. That's actually what it's supposed to mean. Think good and it is good. So we have some control. We can project from our consciousness, in a way to actually affect the reality. Yeah. And so
it's like today, I was talking to my friend, and the guy who took 3 shots of and I was trying to talk to him and give him, again, like you said to me, show him that there's a something, what is this, not a storm coming. What's the mashal you used? You're trying to show somebody that there's a comet.
Oh yeah.
And the guy literally wrote to me 2 sentences as I'm like blabbing all my stuff. I don't have the energy. I'm honestly not interested. So it means that like he can't face what he did. And then a friend of mine wrote to me, dude, but you should, and because I said it, what I want, because he said to me like, there is something to be said. He goes, trust me, another friend wrote to me, the guy is applying what he hears from his friends who are like doctors and whatever, his rabbi. And I said, I know exactly who he's listening to. He's listening to this one doctor on YouTube, Dr. Z-Dog, whatever the hell his name is, and his friend who's a doctor in Florida, right? There's 2 people who are basically reinforcing what the guy wants to feel comfortable about. And I said that what I wanted to write to him was that, he will be busy doing his stuff, his work, whatever it is, for a while, until whatever he sees across the screen, across his, whatever, his television or YouTube, very soon is going to be so unavoidable that he won't be able to be quote unquote busy anymore. Neither will many people who were busy. And
that's
my
what
friend, just listen. So my friend goes to me, why didn't you write it to him? I said, listen, man, at some point you just got to let human events play themselves out. I'm not here to win an argument with him. I'm here because I care about him, because he's my friend, but I can't bang my head against the wall. I just have to, leave it be, and that it'll just play out, and then he'll, that's it.
So you want the same thing that I want, where with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you can't go back to your stupid life, right?
I don't know about the Marshmallow Man. I just mean things emes to come out in a Alpi Teva, Derech Teva.
No, that's too slow, brother. It's too slow.
It's not slow. It can all happen very, very fast, one after the other, every day. Every day you open your thing, you see a new, thing. Today you saw Fauci, tomorrow you see this, tomorrow, like every day, barrage of just stuff. We saw that with Trump. Every day we opened it, he did something. Whether we thought it was good and leftists thought it was bad, and every day there's something. He's tweeting something, 4:00 in the morning.
No, my favorite thing that he ever did. People don't understand how funny that guy is.
Yeah, he's very funny.
I think it was like some kind of Democrat. They were choosing the candidate. It was like a town hall or debate between the Democratic candidates, right? Yeah. And then he's tweeting. He's like, boring.
Yeah.
Boring.
But he's right.
It is, of course. He's not always right. He fucked up with his vaccine thing.
I know. I don't think you've. I have my own theory why he was quote unquote pushing it in public. I think he's trying to trap people. He's trying to trap these guys. Whatever. It's my own stupid theory.
I hear you.
And not only that, to his credit, he never discounted. I was just telling people today, if this is the pandemic that we say it is, you have to throw the kitchen sink. If you have vaccines, I'm saying, like, let's assuming vaccines are whatever, good, but they're not. You have that, throw that. If you have monoclonal, throw that. If you have treatments, throw that. Throw everything at it. But to his credit, he was like, I'm throwing everything at it. And he never said, he said, I would never do mandates to people, force people to take something they don't want to take, especially when they're alternative treatments. And 99%, he would never do that. I don't know with this thing. I don't know what his mentality was. I really don't. But I'm sure
we'll find out. We'll find out
what it was. I don't know. For sure, I know that he's not in the camp of these horrible people. I know that.
Look, when it comes down to it, what is this really all about? For me, I think consciously. For many other people, not yet consciously. I want this reality to be over. I want the whole concept of entropy to be banished from existence, which is, in Hebrew, that's the zola. That's entropy in physics, by the way.
That's what what's his name talks about all the time, or like Hessen talks about that.
Yeah, the end of death, the end of agony, the end of pain, the end of separation, the reconnection of every loved one to every other loved one, and that's what this is all about. I mean, we're not ranting and raving here for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sir, it's been 3 hours. This is like Joe Rogan on steroid. 3 hours and 30, almost 7 minutes, 37 minutes.
We broke the world record for the longest podcast.
Actually, no, we didn't. But yeah, for the longest on this platform, that's for sure. Mr.
Oh,
Paul,
it's a pleasure.
what do you have to say in closing?
I mean, there's so much here that we unpacked and we went through that it's just, I say it at the end of all of my videos. I'm going to say it at the end of this one too.
Mhm.
Go out into the world and do the best that you can be, and just constantly have inside your mind and your intentions that that's all that you're doing, and then that's the best it's gonna be. That's it. Just do the best you can, feel that you're doing the best you can, and keep trying to do the best you can, and that's the end of it. I don't know what more to tell you. It's just so overwhelming, and there's so much going on, and if there's this
People actually follow that.
galactic fight for our souls, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just, man, I'm just gonna try and be a nice person.
Yeah.
By the way, I got some more stuff, some more info from Bart Salvok, which is, it gets a little bit crazier. We're not going to do it now, but you know.
Oh no, we're doing another one of these, Frank. I would love to do another one.
Yeah.
No issue.
So-
I'm just, I do, like I said, I'm like, while this last part has been going on, I've been running around like cleaning the house, you know, doing little things.
Oh, good.
So, man, thank you so much for letting me be part of this and being on it. You know? I really enjoyed a lot today.
I think you're a great addition to this, and hopefully we do it again.
Yeah, this was great, guys.
Out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.
People, just so you know, I've been watching the live, comments to the Facebook Live. People are like loving this.
Cool.
And people were sharing it, and they were like, "This is." They're like posting that everybody should watch this, and like, this is awesome, and we're gonna do this again. We'll see this week, and Zrat Hashem. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Man. Thank you so much, man. I'll see you later.
Koyach. Awesome.
Take care, fellas.
All right, guys.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
Bye.